This is Saturday, July 24th. There are 0 days until San Diego Comic-Con 2021. Welcome to SDConCast, the official podcast of the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog.
VANUHTEE go. Oh my god, I love LiveJournal and my LiveJournal loves me. Current mood is hyperactive. Current music review 73. I love the color scheme, it's pink and purple. It looks green.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am your host, James Riley, and joining me on the podcast, as always, Carrie Dixon.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us for what is going to be a long but hopefully fun Saturday.
And also joining us for the first hour or so, Erin Tapkin.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here.
All right, so this is our special SDCC event podcast. We'll be live for roughly the next 3 hours with special guests, rotating co-hosts, and possibly some giveaways. We'll be taking comments and questions during the show. You can tweet us at SD_comic_con or use the hashtag SDConCast. We will also be keeping an eye on the YouTube live chat if you wish to comment there. First, let's talk about why we're doing this. But before we get started here, let's go ahead and see if this works. No, I don't hear anything. Fail right off the beginning.
That's
All
okay.
right. So why are we doing this, Carrie?
We are doing this for a couple of reasons. Number one, we want to give all of you a small taste of San Diego Comic-Con. Obviously, most of us, at least, are not down in San Diego right now in the gas lamp. And as unfortunate as that is, we can still celebrate it in our own way. So we've got a really fun lineup for you today with artists and exhibitors and actors and TV and comics writers. And we'll talk about all of that here in just a minute. But the main reason we're doing this is to try to convince you to go buy some art. And because especially as the pandemic is not over, we are not really back to normal, and your dollars seriously help artists and small vendors. So if you haven't already this weekend, go shop the vendors who you would normally go visit on the exhibit floor, go look at what the offerings are, spend some money. It helps them out tremendously. So,
And even if you can't spend money,
yes,
you could always give them a nice retweet.
Yep.
That always helps.
yes,
Spread the word.
Share something on Instagram, do a TikTok video. What are the kids doing these days? Is it TikTok?
Whatever the kids are doing these days. TikTok, yes.
yes. Go TikTok that shit.
So just a little bit of housekeeping here. Andy Wagner from the blog will be our host during the second hour. And outside Comic-Con herself, Kim Twombly, will be joining us for the third hour.
Should we talk about the guests we have real quick?
Yeah, let's talk about the guests, our guest list for the day.
Okay, so at 12 o'clock, and all these times are in Pacific time, but at 12, we're going to be joined by Scott Shaw, who is a cartoonist and also co-founded San Diego Comic-Con. Then at 12:20, we will have Thomas Lennon, the actor and co-creator of Reno 911, and he's also the author of the New York Times best-selling books, Ronan Boyle's book series. At 12:40, we will have Peter Santamaria, an artist. At 1 o'clock, we will have actress and director Aisha Tyler. At 1:20, we will have Martin Sue, who we've been retweeting all week, but he's an artist. At 1:40, we will be joined by Darin DePaul, a voice actor from Overwatch, Halo Infinite, and more. At 2 o'clock, we'll be joined by Patrick Ballesteros, an artist. At 2:20, we will be joined by Julie and Shawna Benson, who are TV and comics writers for such projects as Star Trek Prodigy, The 100, Batgirl, and the Birds of Prey. And then at 2:40, we will be joined by Toddland, who make all of the awesome Bob's Burgers, Family Guy, American Dad exclusives every year.
That's it? That's all you got for us?
That's all I got.
I think you did good. I think that's pretty good. That's a chunk.
Yeah.
That's the chunk for 3 hours.
We agree. So it should be a really good mix of people. So we're very excited about today.
So
and James, yeah.
where there's a couple of things. Where did we mention that there are multiple places that people can go find things to purchase from artists and other vendors? There's we have a list on our website of all the vendors and links to such things as their shops, their websites, their social media, but also on Comic-Con site, the Eventney site, for the exhibitor list, they have an interactive exhibitor list that you can go and shop there as well.
Yep. And then, yep, all of that is correct. And then, James, do you want to talk about how, if people have questions for our guests?
Yeah, if you have a question for our guests, as we mentioned, you can tweet us. You can tweet us at SD_comic_con. We're going to be keeping an eye on our mentions. You can hashtag it with SDConCast to make sure we see it instead of all the other replies we may be getting about other Comic-Con related things. Or you could put the question in the live chat as we go. So just remember that that's multiple ways you can get a question in. We only have about 20 minutes with each guest, so there'll be a limited amount of time, but hopefully we'll be able to get to any that may pop up.
Yes. I also wanted to mention that also on our website, you can find a list of commissions. If commissions are what you're after, there are tons of amazing artists who are offering them this year. So that is a very cool way to get original art. And then also this morning, we launched our, I guess it's annual now, scavenger hunt, which is a lot of fun. We really enjoy putting them together, and it seems like you guys really enjoy doing them. It's all virtual. It's fairly easy, but it's a lot of fun.
I think that we give people a nice, heads up. We give them the link, here's kind of where you can find the answers. So it's not terrible.
Yeah, we don't
totally
give you
doable for everybody.
Question and be like, here, enjoy. Search the
figure it
entire
out.
internet.
No, we're not going to make you Google everything. Definitely not.
Is there anything else that we want to discuss before we hopefully start bringing on guests?
I want to know what everybody's been getting and picking up. That's what I want to know.
Well,
anyone get anything fun?
You and Carrie probably are the ones that have been buying more. I don't think I've purchased anything yet.
No, you haven't?
I haven't.
Boy,
no.
You've gotten off easy.
I know.
I bought quite a bit of Mondo, quite a few Mondo items.
I bet.
I did get the 100% soft dumpster today. I see Will Burton in the live chat. He got that too. That's awesome. Yeah, I bought a few things. Got a commission coming. So
nice.
I'm pretty excited. Yesterday's pins. I got tons of yesterday's pins.
Yes.
Yeah. They're killing it this year. I mean, they kill it every year, but this year, we knew a bunch of stuff that was coming out, and then there's hey, surprise, we also have this. We've got these coins. Hey, surprise, look at these hats. So they're continuing to surprise us.
It's a very smart way to do things. I'm very excited about them. I personally have 5 orders into them. But yeah, I mean, there's been so much awesome stuff this week. I mean, this morning, the 100% soft dumpster fire launched. Patrick Ballesteros always kills it. Todd Lynn's stuff is really cool. I mean, everybody's just got really amazing stuff. And again, you can find all that information on our site.
Let's see if I can get this to work this time.
The exhibit hall is now open to attendees. Have a great Comic-Con.
There.
Yes.
Now it works.
No running in the exhibit hall. No running.
Absolutely. It looks like you guys have been getting some fun stuff too. I see some folks who got some of yesterday's mystery boxes. Awesome. We got some Patrick prints, some Mondo Tiki mugs. Awesome.
Yeah, those Mondo, just in case anyone doesn't know, that Fin Fang Foom Mondo Tiki mug that came out, that's part of their buy one, get one Mondo or Marvel Tiki mug sale. So if you want the Fin Fang Foom, you can get the Venom mug or the MODOK mug for free. Or 2 Fin Fang Fooms if you want 2 Fin Fang. I was just shocked that it was included in that sale.
That is a good deal. It's a very good deal.
Yeah.
Have you guys watched any panels yet?
I watched the Her Universe fashion show last night. And
We did too. I watched part of it. Beth watched all of it.
Very nice. And then I also watched the Star Trek panel. What about you, Aaron? Have you seen anything?
I haven't watched any panels. I've watched
Really?
clips from a few of the book ones that the publishers have put up, and I've been following like some of the updates I've been doing, but I haven't sat down and watched like a whole panel beginning to end because I'm terrible. I take for granted the fact that they like are going to put them, you know, that I don't have to do it immediately.
Yeah.
I don't have to watch them right away.
Most of them, I mean, almost all of them will be up for a while. So you'll be able to watch them over the next few weeks.
I was also surprised at the number of people I saw on Twitter talking about, how do I see the panels? How do I watch them? Do I have to pay for them? And I don't know if Comic-Con's not doing a great job of letting people know, or people aren't doing a great job of paying attention, but all you got to do is go to the site, click on the panel you want, and it'll bring up the link.
Yep, just click on the YouTube link and watch it.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. It's all free. It should all be up at least for a couple of weeks. They are releasing them in staggered amounts, so you do have to check to see when the panel you want to watch will be released on YouTube. But yeah, they're all super easy to watch, and there's a lot of really fun ones. So if you've got some free time, it's definitely worth checking out.
And for those with commutes, they could also be something you put on the phone and listen to while you drive.
Yep.
And contrary to popular complaints on Twitter, there's a lot of comic book content. Every year you see Comic-Con's not about comics anymore, and it certainly is about comics, and there's a lot of comic book content.
Yes, that is absolutely correct.
Well, we're ready for Scott when he shows up, so we'll just keep talking about Comic-Con while we wait. Is there anything else that we've seen that has piqued our interest?
I feel like I have bought everything this year. Stuff we haven't talked about. I love Fat Rabbit Farm's little Loki design that they did with their character Baby, which is super cute. There's Scott though, so let's go ahead and grab him.
And they on the fly decided to do that as a t-shirt when they got a lot of comments about that. So that's nice that they were able to quickly do that. I shouldn't say this, but cash in on the popularity while it's hot. That's good for a small company like them to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about small companies is they can pivot to whatever is current and new and get things into people's hands that they would really want right now.
Absolutely.
All right, so we are bringing on Scott Shaw. Let's see. I think he has to do his audio thing, get that up and running before he comes in. So, yeah, there's been a few things that I was interested in. I think Brian Kessinger released a Loki Haunted Mansion mashup set.
That was super cute,
which was really cool.
Absolutely. I really liked the pen set that Entertainment Earth did for Artist Alley and Attendee for Life. I thought that was really cute.
Right. Hey, Scott, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Well, do you want me to come on too? I don't know why I'm not showing up here.
You can.
You should.
There
we go.
No, I'm part of the team. Sorry.
All right.
You're fine.
All right. Well, welcome. This is Scott Shaw. He's a world-renowned cartoonist and co-founder of San Diego Comic-Con, which let's get right into it and start asking some questions. As one of the original co-founders of Comic-Con, originally known as Golden State Comic-Con, can you give us a brief overview of how the convention formed?
Well, it was essentially started by two groups of fans in San Diego. There was one that was mostly collectors and dealers, and they were over in Claremont Mesa, Sheldorf. And meanwhile, there was my friends at San Diego's Crawford High School, which included Roger Friedman, Greg Bear, John Pound, myself. We were mostly people that really wanted to be creators, not just collect and enjoy them, but do that too. So when the two of us got together, and by the way, our mentor was Ken Kruger. So when we all got together, it was perfect chemistry. and Shell and Ken and Richard Alf were really the co-founders. We were just on the original committee, and I was the publicist, and I did the first poster for Comic-Con back in 1970. And from then on, it just seemed to spread. And part of the fact was that back then the comic book industry was all around New York City, except for underground comics. And, you know, cartoonists live a very, you know, solitary life. Most of our spouses see the back of our neck more than our face because we're bent over drawing something or writing something. And suddenly, one of the best vacation cities in San Diego on the opposite coast was inviting professionals to come out. And of course, we made Neil Adams one of our first big guests. Jack Kirby was our first really big guest, he and Ray Bradbury. But Jack was now living on the West Coast, but Neil went back to the East Coast. And I'm sure people were asking him about it because suddenly cartoonists from the East Coast started coming out on their own volition. And I never understood that until I became a professional cartoonist, because suddenly these men and women could deduct the entire vacation trip on their taxes, and their wives and husbands and kids suddenly saw them in a whole different light. And that, I think, was one of the real triggers that made Comic-Con start accelerating in the mid-70s.
Yeah, I always considered Comic-Con being in San Diego to be one of the key draws, because a lot of people will be like, oh, look, I get to go to San Diego, which is beautiful. So, yeah.
And
that's
the thing that I
great.
never understood, even at the time, and of course, Sheldorf was from Detroit and didn't quite understand, I don't think, because he was the one that kept pushing for it. We didn't need to call ourselves the Golden State Comic-Con. He seemed to think that nobody knew what San Diego was. And it's like, I think San Diego's been on the chart for quite a while. If nothing else, people understand it because it's one of the biggest Navy towns in America. At least back then, they had 9 active Navy bases and the Marine Corps depot as well. So, I mean, all those people went back to tell their friends San Diego's a cool place. In fact, that's why my dad moved to San Diego. He was in the Navy. He was a Pearl Harbor survivor, and he got trained in San Diego and then sent out to Pearl Harbor, survived the attack, but always said, I'm going to move to, when I have a family, I'm going to move to San Diego because it's the prettiest place I've ever seen. So there you go.
For a obviously much fuller look into the making of the convention, people can now listen to Comic-Con Begins, the podcast on SiriusXM, which was amazing and which you were a part of. When people talk about Comic-Con, a lot of times they don't necessarily talk about the inception of it and how it began. So how did it feel to you to be able to like tell that story in a more full way?
I think it was an outstanding project because everybody got to express their own experience. And it's fascinating. It's like Rashomon, the famous Japanese movie where everyone's got a different recounting of the same incident. And it's so funny to hear people saying, you know, well, I didn't know any of that was going on. And it's like, well, you know, it was a big convention. I mean, maybe at 300 people it wasn't, but as it gained momentum, we weren't keeping track of each other. We were all having fun in our own way. And I'm surprised sometimes at all the people I didn't meet at the early shows because I was doing something else. But this show kind of levels it all out for everybody. In fact, I've heard an awful lot of people gripe about the fact that, well, we don't have our names there. No, there's a complete transcription connected to every one of them. And so it has the entire, every word in every episode attributed to each person. So if anybody's listening and is really curious about, boy, that guy's really an a-hole, or boy, that, I don't know that voice, but she's really smart or whatever, then they can look it up. But the nice thing is we all have equal presence and we all got to say our own stories. And even though there had to be massive editing because they did like 60 hours of interviews down to 6 hours, I think it's a pretty damn good representation. And I think that it's going to lead to other projects similar to that too.
I hope so. It was thoroughly enjoyable. I felt like I learned a lot. So again, if anybody hasn't listened to it, Comic-Con Begins is the name, and it's a wonderful podcast.
And it's shocking, and it's outrageous. You got to say all that stuff or people won't care.
It's full of drama and intrigue.
I can't believe what I just heard.
That's right. It's the best thing or the worst thing you'll ever hear.
I think a lot of our listeners might know you from the Quick Draw panel that you do with Sergio Aragones and our friend Mark Evanier. And I was wondering who is the faster Quick Draw animator? Is it you or Sergio?
Well, it's funny because we call it Quick Draw, but it really isn't about our drawing speed, because Sergio has this remarkable brain to hand reaction that makes him just be able to kind of just come up with anything immediately. It's almost like he's tracing it. It's like he sees the whole picture and he's just filling it in. With me, I realize I can't draw like that, so I just try to get the idea down. But the big thing about Comic-Con's Quick Draw, unlike a lot of other conventions that claim they have a quick draw because people just get up and show how fast they can draw Thor or something, this show is really about how cartoonists think. We're just, expressing it by putting a drawing up on the screen, but really it's about how many gags we can come up with. And we've had people that actually felt like they had to perform to the point where they did 2 or 3 gags for everything that Mark postulated for us. So, I mean, it's really fun, but it's not really about the, excuse me. Thank you. I think that the real key is that we're thinking on the spot. It's essentially our improv act. It's not who can draw fastest. And quite honestly, drawing fast is really only good with Sergio. Most people, when they draw fast, it just comes out looking crappy. So when people brag about doing fast stuff, it's like, no, the quality really matters when it comes to actually making comics. This is just a, kind of a fun show.
How many years have you been doing that panel with them?
Well over 30.
Oh, wow.
Well over 30. And I've been friends with Mark since 1970, 70, I think. We met at Jack Kirby's house.
You could hear that story on Comic-Con
Yeah, well, he's been working for Western Publishing, writing Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner comics and things like that. And of course, I was probably one of the few fans that was still picking up stuff like that, because that was what I intended to do. I think my career worked out well because I was the one guy that didn't want to draw Conan or Batman. I wanted to draw Fred Flintstone or Bugs Bunny, which I did both. But when I met Mark, I thought, well, this guy knows all the names of the artists drawing him. So I described the style and he'd say, oh, well, that's Jack Manning, who I wound up inking for years. Or that's Pete Alvarado, who I wound up inking. I mean, it was like I suddenly got names to attach to people that I didn't know within a few years I'd be working with. But between all that, Mark and I became fast friends and still are. And Sergio and I think, met at the 72 convention, and we've been pals for years too. So, I mean, that's the other great thing about comics and Comic-Con in particular. I have so many friends that not only did I help, run the early shows with, but also people that I've met. I have my cat that's been locked in the studio with me.
You're fine. You're fine.
Come on, Stanley.
There's always at least one pet-related issue during one of our podcasts.
That's fine. But anyway, Quick Draw is just, it certainly turned into one of the bigger things for Comic-Con. I mean, I think they have an audience that has I think there are like 2,000 people sitting in the show and people waiting in case anybody leaves, which rarely happens unless the bathroom beckons to them.
There's always a line. How did you guys decide to start doing that panel?
I don't really remember. I think it came from the fact that cartoonists, when we're hanging out, we do the thing of taking a piece of paper, folding it in half, drawing half a drawing, and then without showing it to the other artists, say, here, you finish it. And that's been something that cartoonists have done probably since they were cavemen. You could probably find, you know, caves in France that have examples of that. But it's just the way we play, you know, and it's kind of like challenging each other. Hey, how are you going to react to this? Make it funny. And we used to do stuff like that long before that. I was remembering the other day that Harvey Kurtzman came to Comic-Con, and he arranged to have a giant piece of butcher paper taped to the wall at in one of the rooms at, I think, El Cortez. And he got mostly underground cartoonists like myself together, and we did this one big drawing that was all the characters reacting to each other. It's like somebody'd start something and then somebody else would say, okay, my character is going to be part of this. And it was a huge thing at the end, and I don't know where that photo is, and I would kill to have it. He had all of us sit on the floor, Indian style, you know, and then he laid across our laps like this, down, horizontal, like he was proud that he'd done it all. And I thought that was really, really a cool experience. Like, Harvey Kurtzman sitting in my lap, what is going on now, you know? How many people are going to experience that? That doesn't happen at Comic-Con anymore.
Well,
if somebody's sitting in your lap, you better watch out.
Speaking of things that happen, you know, or don't happen now, having watched it grow over the last 50-ish years, do you feel that there's an essence to the show that just never changes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, you're in a huge building with people that all like the same stuff you do. I mean, maybe it's not, maybe you're not into video games and they're into video games, but you all appreciate entertainment and creativity. And, you know, the more Comic-Con grows, the more I think they're going to have to possibly break out and make the show more like it is in shows like this in Europe, where they have it all over the city. And I keep turning off my copier here, and it keeps turning itself back on. Hold on a second, please. I'm going to turn it off at the source. But anyway, I think that the vibe is still there. It's just that most people don't understand that, you know, first of all, the celebrity guests aren't guests. Their studios send them. Comic-Con invites creators. That's what it is. Create writers and artists. And when people go, I want to go to Comic-Con, and they've got all those guests there that are famous, it's like, no, we're not talking about the people that perform our stuff, you idiots. We're talking about the people that come up with it. We're the blank piece of paper people. And that's a big difference. And I have nothing against celebrities. I've worked with a number of them, but it's just like, you know, they've already got all their attention. If they want to show up, I'm glad that their company has to pay for it, because that's not what we're about. People seem to think it's changed that way, but Comic-Con's still the same. If you look at the early flyers, it's about science fiction. It's about movies. It's about comic strips. It's about underground comics. I put Mr. Natural on our first poster. It's a little bit of everything. And of course, now we've got things like video games and, you know, things like that, technological things that didn't even exist back then. And those are add-ons. But let's face it, those businesses are relying on the comic business now. So it's kind of, I mean, even though we might not agree on it, I think that it has every right to be there. But I just want to make sure that people know, if you like comics, there are, you know, scads of programs about comic books, comic book creators. If you go to Hall A, there are tons of old comic books available for sale. You know, it's whatever you like, you'll be able to find it at Comic-Con. So don't dismiss all the other stuff. You know, I always hear people whining about, you know, I really wish that it was like the old days where it was just about comics. I'm thinking, well, you know what? That's only because you were only paying attention to the comics then. And now there's a lot of stuff to distract you, or to maybe a lot more people to prevent you from getting to where you want to get to. But that's just due to success.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I also think that a lot of fans, including myself to a certain degree, kind of get mad that the rest of the world now found our little secret. It's very strange to see people strutting around and, boy, I'm a big fan of the Hulk, and realize that that's because they want to go to Comic-Con dressed as the Hulk. They've never read comics particularly, but they think, boy, that's a great idea. Well, you know what? That's creative too. So, a lot of people put down cosplayers, but as somebody that smothered himself with peanut butter and went as the turd at the 1972 World Science Fiction Convention, I highly support it, especially if it doesn't involve edible materials.
Yeah,
I was a one-man disaster. After I washed it off, it blew up the plumbing in the hotel. I'm not kidding.
I know, because you talk
They were
about it in the
after me for a
podcast.
while.
Yeah, because the convention had to pay, right?
Yeah, but I had absolutely the best excuse ever. I said, you guys gave me an award for wearing that. They created an award. I was most disgusting.
Can't argue with
Still am,
that.
by the way. Take a look. This isn't peanut butter, folks. This is what I've deteriorated into.
That's amazing.
Well, and disgusting.
And disgusting.
You notice how now the word amazing is applied to anybody that's competent? we expect people not to know what they're doing to such a point right now that anybody that actually comes through is a hero.
You mentioned something earlier about how you weren't interested in drawing traditional comic books. You wanted to draw more Bugs Bunny and cartoons. And what is it about those kind of characters or that genre that interested you more so than traditional?
Of all, those are actually just as historical as superheroes. They were doing funny comics and funny comic strips long before there were superheroes. So the comics aren't based on superheroes. That's just when fans started noticing, I think. But in my case, the funny stuff appealed to me because I'm funny. And I was a funny kid and a weird kid. And I watched cartoons. I mean, you had to pay for comic books. And even though they were only a dime a piece, you had to wheedle your parents out of money, or you had to go have a lemonade stand in front of the house or do an awful lot of chores. But I wound up training myself how to be a cartoonist by copying drawings in comics I had. And most of the comics I had were Bugs Bunny, Mighty Mouse, stuff like that appealed to me. And frankly, in those days, your parents said, well, those are realistic comics will turn you into a juvenile delinquent. So these are the Dell comics or the safer comics for a kid. But even though I wound up, like most fans growing up, first reading the Superman comics that were kind of aimed at younger kids. And then when Marvel came out, my head exploded. And then when Underground Comics came out, my brain exploded. But I still like that stuff. And quite honestly, because I was doing that stuff as opposed to trying to draw like Jack Kirby or later Neil Adams, were the two guys everybody was imitating, I stood out because I was doing something that nobody else was interested in. And that's how I got into Underground Comics. And I was still doing kind of pleasant underground comics. They weren't really all about sex and violence. They were mostly about drugs and funniness. So I was kind of, stepping more like myself anyway. I mean, I'm outrageous, but not disgustingly so in that way. So, I mean, it worked out for me. And plus, too, I have to point out that Hanna-Barbera became my favorite studio along with Jay Ward, because those were the first two studios making new cartoons when I was a kid in the late 50s. And when the Flintstones came out, it was like unbelievable for me, because my second big interest in life and still a hobby is paleontology. And suddenly, here's my favorite cartoon studio doing a show about cavemen and dinosaurs, and the lead character looks like my dad. And I was 9 years old when it came out. I did a long campaign with my parents because they had me taking music lessons on Friday night when the Flintstones are going to premiere. And I said, I don't want to be a musician. I want to be a cartoonist. And they finally, relented. And I'll never forget, I was as close to my screen as I am to my screen here talking to you. And I whispered to myself, that's what I'm going to do.
And you
I
did.
ended up doing
And
it.
you
I mean,
did.
how many people get to do what they wanted to do when they were a kid? I'm very, very lucky.
Absolutely. Well, unfortunately, that is all the time that we have. But
Well,
real,
that's a good ending.
yeah, that's the perfect ending. Real quick, Scott, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find your work online?
Well, you can find my work at shawcartoons.com. And I also, I'm working on a number of projects, but I'm also doing commissions. If anyone wants to contact me for a commission, please let me know. I'm at shawcartoons@gmail.com.
And you do fantastic commissions because I have one.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for joining us today, Scott. And we will talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks for inviting me. Have
you.
a great convention for the rest of the weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right.
I could listen to him talk for the whole 3 hours. What
He's a
great
fun
stories.
He's a fun guy. Again, I really recommend Comic-Con Begins is the podcast. It's a really
Okay.
good listen.
I gotta know more about this peanut butter incident.
Well, he does go into all of it. So it's a good listen.
All right, so coming up next, we have Thomas Lennon, the star and co-creator of Reno 911 and author of the New York Times bestselling Ronan Boyle book series. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
You even have a sign. You're prepared.
Well, guys, if we're doing Comic-Con, come on. What are we doing if we don't have the official Comic-Con stuff, guys? By the way, I can be two people at your Comic-Con depending who you want. I can be me, or I can be this person. You have a preference?
I think we want Thomas Lennon.
Yes.
Okay, we'll do. You know what we'll do? Let's do the first 18 minutes as me, and then we'll do the last maybe 2 minutes as our pal Ken Burns. That sound good?
Perfect.
Great. Hi, guys. I miss you. It's nice to see you.
It's
Good.
such an honor to talk to you. How exciting.
I know it's always it's a little sad that we're not there in person, but a couple things. One, we will be soon, I think, and then two, every year there's not a Comic-Con. I saved like $15,000 on art that I bought. Taking Eric Powell out to dinner, that's a whole damn thing. You got to take all these artists out to dinner, and they always look so sad. And then you got to buy them spaghetti and a gas lamp. And then they're like, "Hey man, did you get my new collection of all the books?" I'm like, "I already have all these books." And they're like, "But you don't have the collection." And then you got to buy that thing too. You know what I'm talking about, guys?
Yeah.
We do.
Comic-Con. It burns money almost as fast as the Renaissance Fair.
A few less turkey legs at Comic-Con.
Well, none for the Meat is Murder crew over here. So, but either way, more turkeys, less turkey legs.
So you have written for films, you've written for TV, you've done sketch comedy, and you've done these things for decades.
Yeah.
But the Ronan Boyle books are your first foray into novels. So can you talk a little bit about this idea and what made you think that it was the right time for you to write a novel?
Well, that's an amazing question, because I think I've been thinking like a lot of screenwriters and comedy people. You know, I certainly always thought like, well, you must have a novel, right? At some point, you must. I mean, that's the other arena that you got to conquer, right? And I never could think of a novel for 40 years or whatever. Sorry, that's my reminder to make sure I don't miss coming to Comic-Con. So, you know, 25, 30-ish years go by of writing like jokes and things. And then I was in Ireland, and I was in this sort of spooky old castle. And I was looking at a real shillelagh, which was this giant, you know, club that was hanging on the wall. And I was like, what if that was like, you needed that for your work? And it just shows you like, it's sometimes a tiny little thing. So now, because of looking at that shillelagh on the wall, and just thinking, what if that was like a thing that you really carried around and you had to have? Now there's 3 Ronan Boyle books. The third one comes out in November, kind of right before like the holidays, and then and I'm about a year and a half into writing the movie for DreamWorks, which is very exciting. So, you know, make note of when you notice stuff and you feel like it feels like it's a good idea. Just make note of it. You know, like. And there's a funny story that I don't tell that much, but maybe I should tell because this is the time for things like this. So I wrote a first draft of the first Ronan Boyle book, which is called Ronan Boyle on the Bridge of Riddles. And it's basically about a kid who works for the leprechaun police, but it's not a cutesy pie thing. You know, leprechauns are dealt with in like the real mythology. Like they steal your booze, they'll steal your gold, they'll steal your money, they'll steal like, basically they say like they'll steal your nose if they could make money from it. They just don't care. They're awful little, horrible little things. And so I'd written the draft of this kid who, you know, becomes an intern for the special unit of Chernobyl. And I gave it to this agent who handed it back to me and was like, I don't think this is a book. It's like, nah, I don't know. If it is, and he said, I'll never say who this was, but he said, if this is a book, I guess I just don't like it or I don't get it, but I don't really think it's a book. And now it's 3 books and a movie. So just also, you know, like be careful who you ask for feedback from too, because they may not always be right.
Absolutely. And they're great books. I've read the 2 that are out. I want to talk about, actually, John Hendricks does those beautiful illustrations for the books. How involved are you in the process of like deciding what gets
ready for this?
illustrated?
I'm going to do a fun little, there'll be a little Easter egg here. Not a little Easter egg. I have I bought all of John's original covers.
That's amazing.
Well, this was, I don't know why it wouldn't occur to me to have done this. First of all, John Hendricks, one of the great illustrators and artists working in America right now. I'm so lucky that he does my books. A really fun detail is for the first book, he put his own name on the cover. So it says in huge letters, it says, you know, Ronan Boyle on the Bridge of Riddles by Thomas Lennon. And then in pretty large print, right under that, he just put his own name. And guys, I'll just tell you, this is the art of war. Just you don't always have to, don't ask for permission. Just do stuff. Why did he put his name on there? He doesn't get his name on the cover, but he's a genius. So he puts his name on all of the covers. And that's how you take the power. But if I could show you something, we have a second.
Yeah, go for it.
Take a second. This is the actual cover for the 3rd book by John Hendricks of Ronan Boyle, Into the Strange Place. What if I could spin around and show? Oh no, yeah. So this is the actual cover. It's kind of interesting. They don't always, you know, none of the like, he just does a little placeholder of the, but if you can see like the detail that John does, this is the actual drawing. And there's Ronan and Lily, the wolfhound, and they're sort of in an undersea area where there's like marrows and things. I tried to incorporate every kind of different sort of Irish mythological creatures, and I knew as I was getting to book 3, I hadn't done like marrows and sea creatures yet and things like that. So the new one's I think maybe my favorite of the 3. Obviously, I mean, everyone's going to say that, of course, but you know, first book, you write a book and you're like, oh, that was it. They asked me when I sold the first book, they're like, this will be a series and you have tons of ideas, right? And I was like, absolutely, of course I do. Of course I do. And then you sit down to write the second book and you're like, I've never had any ideas ever for anything. I have nothing. And then 2 turned out great, but 3 I think is it's the strangest book, Ronan Boyle, Into the Strange Place. And there's definitely some sort of bizarre things that happen in it that I think
no, you're fine. Do you have like an envisioned endpoint for how many books there will be? I mean,
3 is currently right now 3 is the end of the Ronan Boyle series, is Into the Strange Place. And as a result, something happened, which is as I wrote the end of the 3rd book, which I wasn't expecting. I came into my house, I was out sitting in the garage where I write, and I came into the house, My family was like, "Are you okay?" Because I was just sobbing. I had like this insane, like, I'm not saying that the book is that good. I'm just saying that it was just really weird to write a character who's basically sort of based on a teenage version of myself, you know, and follow through these stories, and then to sort of like say goodbye at the end of the third book. It kind of leaves the door open. There's definitely some pretty messed up, weird things that happen at the end of 3 that could start something else. I guess we have to see how the movie does first. So often the way of the world.
Well, speaking of the movie, that was announced last fall from DreamWorks, and you say you're still writing it. So is that still in development? Is it still in process?
It's amazing. So, you know, I've been on a lot of movies and I've written lots of films and things, but I've never been on an animated movie quite like this. Where, so, you know, if everything goes well on Ronan Boyle and the Bridge of Riddles, which so far it is, it means we would be racing into theaters by about Christmas 2024.
Okay.
You guys will see me at every Comic-Con pimping this movie so hard for years and years. No, that would be like really great scenario. But I will say, I've been able to see about 35 minutes of the film and of course that's in very, very rough, you know, like it's very animatic or storyboards, but you know, there's the voices are mostly me and Fergal Riley, who's directing, who's amazing. Amazing artist who makes Fergal started as like a storyboard artist on Iron Giant, and it's really fun. Like the way that I write jokes, he can sit and just draw you like something, you know. I can show you an original Fergal sketch too. Sorry, if you keep going with questions, I'm going to find you a Fergal Riley sketch too. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, I have a question. So the second Ronan Boyle book came out on March 17th, 2020, which was an interesting time in the world.
It was like, it's literally the day everything closed, not figuratively. It was just like, it was so hilarious. I had so many book tour dates set up, and it was going to be like, and then everybody's like, hey, you know, you can still do the book tour. It's okay. And I'm like, hey, isn't there this thing it seems like Stephen King's The Stand is just happening, like in real life. Aren't we living in The Stand? Are we going to be okay? And they're like, no, you're going to be fine. You'll be fine. You're just going to go goof around. And I'm like, have you never seen me at Comic-Con? I'm a huggy guy. Oh, there's a Fergal Riley drawing, by the way, if you want to see one just
That's
for fun.
fun.
Sorry, I have my camera turned off, so I can't see if I can see you. Can't see if I can see me. Hang on one second. This is, oh yeah, these are like Fergal. This is Fergal Riley. This is just like, if he sends you a note, he'll add these little like details. Yeah, Comic-Con alarm, sorry. Oh, sorry, that's our address there, if you want to mail me something. Yeah, the last book came out, it was legitimately like, if you're trying to pick a day that would be like, what's the worst day of the millennium?
I mean, what was it like literally being one of like the very first people who suddenly had to pivot to virtual?
Well, it was interesting. So the first thing I did is I put a bunch of books on a radio flyer wagon and put on my kilt and tried to sell some down my street. But we didn't run into anybody. Everybody was hiding at home. But yeah, you know, it's so weird to think back at that time when we're like, what will it be like to, you know, not be on airplanes and things and not go to Comic-Con. I think the weirdest thing for us is probably not going to Comic-Con. Although I will say, now here's an interesting detail. So my son was born June 23rd, 2009. And he was actually born, he came 2 weeks early. So he was slightly born a little bit earlier than he was supposed to be born. And then Comic-Con, as you always know, is like the 23rd, 24th, 25th of July every year, always is.
Yep.
And we never miss a Comic-Con. So Ollie, my son, who's now 12, his first Comic-Con, he was 4 weeks old. He was 4 weeks old. He was basically the size of like a Chihuahua puppy, but smaller. He was like just over 5 pounds. And I attribute it to as a result, he's never been sick.
Exposed to everything all at
Yeah.
once.
I think at 4 weeks old, you'd walk that floor, hit that floor, guys, between the Chewbacca farts and just the stuff that's going on everywhere.
Set for life.
Like, if he was going to get it, you got it. You got it. You already got it.
That's Lennon's lesson for other parents.
I mean,
Take the baby to Comic-Con.
Take the baby to Comic-Con. It's just like dipping them in the river Styx by the ankles. It's just like nothing will ever get to the part of them that Comic-Con, that the convention hall touched.
I mean, it's very clear that you personally like love going to Comic-Con. What do you love about the convention?
I guess my favorite thing about Comic-Con is I can't think of a place with just a more positive vibe. So overwhelmingly upbeat. I mean, so many places you go where people are crabby these days and everybody's always mad about stuff. And it's so interesting because online, everybody's like always like, I hate this, sucks. Here's why everything sucks. Look, this sucks. Everything sucks. Everybody hates everything. And if there's anything that epitomizes the opposite of that, I think it's Comic-Con, where people celebrate everything. It's just literally the opposite of the internet for days, where it's like, what if we just show how much we love everything all the time? And we say that things are awesome, and maybe even give them a great amount of curve a little bit. Because sometimes the stuff shows at Comic-Con, I'm like, that's not that great, but oh my God, I'm so happy to see them all here. So it's like, it basically is the opposite of the chat room, is the live, let's all get dressed up, maybe in an outfit that is vaguely shows too much skin, and just be weird all day and be effing positive all the time. I love it. It's my favorite
Absolutely.
thing.
I read a term recently in the New York Times. The term is collective effervescence, and that has been resonating with me. It's like that's the perfect Comic-Con thing. That
What a great
we're all
expression.
here. The collective effervescence.
And you can't. There's something about it, and it's just about the positivity. Even when recently at Comic-Con, some of those weird people that protest everything started showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, it was such a funny thing because like everybody was still kind of nice to them. There was like nobody like, it was just like you can't fight how positive the vibe is. So
And then the counter protesters to that.
Is amazing.
It was very creative, very creative counter protesters.
I know. It was just like, so like people coming to Comic-Con and be like, I'm going to be mad about something over here. It's like, no, it's the wrong room, guys. Just no. Like, that's just, I mean, I'm always just, it's just crazy who you see and stuff. I got so lucky. Our last Comic-Con in person, my friend David Mandel, who is a big art collector. He also, he ran the show Veep, and he's a big collector and comic buff and knows everything. He's like, "Do you want to come out to dinner with us?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And he's like, "Hey, just so you know, Frank Miller's coming." And I was like, "No," I'm like, "That's impossible because I'm supposed to be presenting at the Eisner Awards, and he's supposed to be there, and he canceled." And he's like, "No, he canceled your thing, but he's coming to dinner with me." And then we did, and it was such a fun night. And my wife pointed out after a couple drinks, I was trying so hard to make Frank Miller laugh for so long. And then I did. I got a really big, hard laugh out of Frank Miller, and it was like one of it felt like one of the great accomplishments of my life. Because he doesn't seem like he's going to be a hilarious guy, but he actually is. That's the weird twist.
Awesome. Well, super quickly, I think Aaron wanted to play.
Yeah, if you're up for it, I have.
How much can I make? Passion prizes, right?
Of course,
Lady,
your
let's do this.
fortune and glory. We have put together one of the things that I loved about. I've only finished the first novel, but all the words, the Irish Gaelic words and terms and names. And so what I would love is if we could show you some of them, and if you could
tell you what they are?
pronounce them.
Kaylee. Where'd you go? Kaylee. A Kaylee is when you dance around. A Kaylee is like an Irish dance. And in the book, I described that leprechauns never dance even at a Kaylee because their shoes are made out of gold. So they just can't dance in anything. They always want to dance, but they can't lift up their feet because their shoes are so heavy. Oh, how do you say
It's
it?
supposed to be first.
Yeah.
I was like,
How do you say it? Tirnanog. And here's what's weird. The N in the middle is actually lowercase because Irish is a crazy language, guys. Tirnanog is the Irish, the land of the fairy folk. That's where all the fairy people, cluricons, leprechauns, all those sorts of creatures live in Tirnanog. And you actually say it nog. And I know that's a weird one, but any Irish word that you look at, say it the opposite way you think you're supposed to. And that's probably closer than you were before.
It's got to be a nightmare for linguistics people.
You know what's weird? If you drive around towns in Ireland, a little fun, very fun piece of trivia. In the movie 17 Again, I play a fan of The Lord of the Rings, and Melora Hardin and I are on a date, and we start speaking Elvish. Little piece of trivia. You cannot speak Elvish because you can't do it. You can't use it without very complicated permission from the Tolkien family. So what we're actually speaking is just Irish. Yeah, little detail. Next time you watch 17 Again, just Irish.
Crazy.
I'm sure Irish folks know. All right. Ramesh. Ramesh is just a bunch of what you would say is like a bunch of brouhaha, or there's a bunch of rhubarb, or a bunch of you know what? Nonsense. It's just a bunch of Ramesh. Great one. The word that we're trying to get back, by the way, comes up a lot in the second Ronan Boyle book that nobody uses enough, is whinge.
Whinge.
Whinge. Apuka. Apuka, this is a great one, and you got the accent in the exact right place. Here's a terrible thing when you write a movie with the puka in it that has that accent over a U. Every time you want to put puka in the movie, you have to go to Google, search the word, find the page with the actual accent, then put it into your movie again, and then you forget, and you got to do it again, and do it again. A puka is an Irish a creature that can shapeshift. Generally, rabbits, horses, foxes, stoats, sometimes a crow. They'll change from a little person sometimes into all these little forms, or just in between various animal forms, and you'll see them out in the hedgerows and the bogs at night, especially if you've had a lot of ishkabitha, which is whiskey. Shiri. A shiri is an Irish fairy folk. Now, I take a little bit of license with them in the Ronan Boyle book. A shiri is a real thing that exists in Celtic mythology as a fairy spirit. But in the book specifically, I extrapolated it a little bit to a shiri being then the ghost of a fairy folk person. So like if a fairy creature were to die after thousands and thousands and thousands of years that they live, in the books, they then become this other type of real fairy folk that I took some license with, which is a shiri. A fardarig. Fardarig is literally just means a little red man. And I might even have do I have a little sketch of a fardarig? There's several fardarigs in the Ronan Boyle movie. And a fardarig is a little red fellow, sometimes covered in fur, sometimes they've got little tusks and things. I think I have a picture of one right here, of a fardarig. No, I don't. They're all in the book somewhere, but let's see. A lot of people ask, by the way, in book 2, at the Buffet of Miracles, a lot of people ask, is Quassos, the Unicorn of Miracles, is it based on my time with Matthew Perry? Because a lot of people seem to think that Quassos, who's the unicorn, Ronan becomes the sidekick to this unicorn that does 16 shows a night. And the unicorn just beats the crap out of him, knocks him into boxes and sets him on fire, and it's all awful. And people ask, is that based on my time with Matthew Perry? And the answer is no. Quassos is based on Morrissey. And if you read the book, I think you'll immediately, if you know anything about Morrissey and the Smiths, and you read the book and you get to Quassos, the Unicorn of Miracles, you'll be like, perfect. Exactly who that is.
Hysterical. All right. Unfortunately, I think that's about all the time we have, but I want to do two things real quick. One, tell us when the new Ronan Boyle book comes out. And
New Ronan Boyle book comes out November, I believe it's either the 16th or the 19th. Let's say the 16th. It is the 16th. But basically right before, the season where you're buying people Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and Christmas gifts. And the fun thing about it is the third Ronan Boyle book is orange. So when you put them together, it'll be kind of cool. There's going to be a box set and it'll make the Irish flag. That was John Hendrick's idea.
That's awesome. And then our next guest is an artist named Peter Santamaria, and I think he really wants to come on and ask you a question, if you don't mind.
I'm going to answer it as this person, though.
Go for it.
While we're waiting for Peter, can I make my little offer?
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, hi, Peter. Go for it.
Hey, Tom, I'm a big fan, dude. I can't believe they put me on the same show with you. It was a huge honor. Been watching. And I've been watching forever, but a mutual friend of Eric Powell had him on my show recently, and I wanted to say I was in the audience when he smashed the chair over your head.
It was
at
one of
San
the
Diego Comic-Con.
things that's ever happened.
So
we a little detail. We've done a joke panel. I'm looking to show you one of the greatest Eric Powell drawings that is just he did for my son at dinner one night. So we did our first panel. Ben and I acted like we were writing the Goon movie.
Yep.
And we both dressed up in suits and we were wearing like Herbie Fully Loaded hats. And all we did was talk about how shitty we were going to make the Goon movie. And it was going to star Vin Diesel and Rob Schneider. And Eric was all the way on the other side of the stage. And I just keep calling him Rick Powell. And I keep saying that we're not going to let him talk because comic book guys are so dumb. And then we just keep talking about how crappy we're making the movie. And then Eric broke that chair over my back so hard.
I strongly recommend people go on YouTube. I think there's video footage of it there. Absolutely.
This is a fun thing. We're just sitting at dinner one night and Ollie's into Stephen King and stuff. So Eric drew.
I love it.
That's the Goon and Pennywise, obviously.
That's fantastic.
I know. Isn't that fun?
Jealous, man. Hey, I'm doing work over at Skybound Comics, and I have a show with them on YouTube. If you ever want to come on and promote, I'd love to have you on.
Let's do it. I'll just say right now.
Oh, let's do it.
I'll send you guys my email in the chat.
Amazing. Thanks, dude.
Here comes. Okay. Love you all. Bye. And I'm going to turn on my camera and I won't.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Be quiet.
Thanks, guys. I would have said keep them on with us the whole time.
All right. Well, let's just get into it. Yeah.
Go. How's it going, you guys?
Good. How are you?
Excellent.
So happy to be here with you guys. I'm for those of you guys who know, when I did my first and only booth at Comic-Con 2019, you guys were generous and gracious enough to, tell my story a little bit about the Kevin Workman Foundation, all that fun stuff. So honored and happy that you thought to reach out again. I always imagine that people either forget or get sick of me real quick. So it's great.
No.
That's not the case.
No. I've been, I've been watching your shows and buying your prints. And when the time came for us to talk about who do we want to talk to about Comic-Con, I was like, we need to talk to Peter because
you're the best.
He's great to talk to, and he has a really good story. So I wanted to share it with even more people.
I love it.
So let's talk about that 2019 and the Kevin Workman Foundation. You had won the scholarship that allowed you to set up there. So you were selling your wares there, your linoleum block prints, but you were also, I feel like the networking that you were doing at that show was probably even more important than what you were selling. And can you talk a little bit about how meeting people there has helped move your career forward?
Yeah, I'll go even one step further. The funny thing is I've been, for years, I was a teacher, an art teacher for 13 years and doing my artwork on the side. And in 2012, I did my first convention here in Miami. It was a small show just for fun, and I always thought that being in Miami and living out here, it was going to be impossible to ever get on the radar of anybody who could help me transition to another, stage of my career. And the artwork I was making, I thought was too weird for mainstream audiences anyway. So I, had all these blocks in my head mentally, and I thought, it is what it is. Just enjoy it, have fun for what it is. And when Designer Con, which is the first convention that I did outside of Florida, I did 8 years of shows in Florida, which were great. Orlando and Tampa and Miami, Fort Lauderdale. And a friend of mine, an artist named Brian Ewing, he told me, you got to check out the show in Anaheim because it would be good for you. It's like a lot of strange artwork, but you can meet a lot of cool people. It's not too big and you can get on people's radar. Conversely, another friend slash artist who's professional in working in Image Comics and who I won't name, told me, don't do it. No one's going to like your stuff there. It's it's a little too weird for that show. You're going to fail and waste all your money going. And I really had this war in my head of who do I listen to? I was scared, and it was hard, to figure out how to transport all this handmade artwork. There's not like a file that I could send to print at San Diego Kinko's, and so I ended up going. I just swallowed my fear and ended up going, and that's where I met Renee from Kevin Workman Foundation, who saw there was a lot of excitement at the booth, and he vouched for me, put me in the running at the Kevin Workman Foundation, and finally called me to tell me that I had, won the prize. And the prize was to get to go to San Diego Comic-Con and have a booth, all expenses paid, flight, boarding. The booth is a corner booth, like next to Mondo. And it was a life-changing game changer for anybody who, if you're a fan of Comic-Con, but there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. And there is where I met David Alpert, CEO and of Skybound Entertainment, who loved my work and wanted to work on something together. And finally, they reached out and said, well, why don't you just join Skybound? And it was like a series of dominoes that fell to the point where I was able to retire from teaching, February of 2020, by the way, right before everything went crazy, and be able to work for Skybound Entertainment as, the artist at Attack Peter, basically doing all my artwork and working on different projects and launching all kinds of stuff. That's me at Comic-Con, by the way. That was the 2019 booth. The greatest experience ever. I miss it so much. That's what Thomas was saying. I was like, I agree that the one thing I miss more than anything is conventions. Like, especially we're in Florida, like they don't lock anything down here. I could, do almost anything I want in Miami and Florida. But the one thing you can't really do is get to Comic-Con. So I cannot wait.
We can't either. So I want to talk about this. That was the only time you exhibited at Comic-Con, but you'd been before. Yes. I listened to your Sideshow interview, and you had like a 15-year gap, between visits. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and why there was such a big gap?
Yeah, the funny thing is I went to Comic-Con 2002, I think 2003, and then 2007. I went 3 times. And, but I was not even 20 at the time, I think, when I first was 19. Going to San Diego from Miami is super expensive, not to mention, to do it during Comic-Con season. And I was just working retail. I didn't have any money, and I saved up all year and I ran up a credit card to go to Comic-Con. And it was, and I had never really been to a convention at all before that. Like I had been to like some mall shows in Miami, like trading card shows. Can you imagine walking into Comic-Con without ever having been to a Comic-Con of any kind?
Yeah, it's a little bit intimidating.
It is, yeah.
I remember walking in and not being able to see the ends. Like that was the experience. Like I cannot see the wall and the wall. What does that mean? And it was the craziest experience. I had this little portfolio of artwork the third time I went in 2007. And it was like a lot of stop motion animation, dioramas, weird eclectic stuff. But my mindset was still show this work, see if anything can happen. And I wasn't ready. And no one really understood what I was doing. I'm glad because I wasn't ready. And it was such an amazing experience. I met so many great people, but I told myself, this is such a treat. It's such an expense. It's such a treasure to be able to be at Comic-Con. Do not come back here and waste anybody's time until you're ready. And that's what I told myself. And, it's what happened. I didn't go back. I I wanted to go back so bad. I watched it every year on G4 and IGN and all this. And when when the Kevin Workman thing happened, I honestly would tell my wife, Gabby, I'm like, do you think this is a simulation? Because this is so weird. And then, and we're going to Comic-Con, and then everything that happened. And it's everything that I said. I'm not going to go back to San Diego Comic-Con until I'm ready, until I deserve in my mind to be there, until I'm going to have something worth the opportunities that present themselves at Comic-Con. It's crazy. Just as an attendee, the wild the things that happen, the people that you bump into, forget me in line, you bump into. I remember I was grabbing lunch in 2003 in one of the Comic-Con cafeterias, and I sat next to Warwick Davis and his family while they were eating. It was like, what? You know, it's like, and so, you know, the idea is that I didn't feel like I deserved that unless I earned it. And if I earned it, I was going to go, and I was going to go all out. And even Skybound aside, that was the wildest show ever. Meeting the people from Mondo, meeting the people from Kind of Funny. And it was everybody who was everybody stopped at the booth. The booth was so good. The Kevin Workman folks really went all out for us. And it was life-changing. It literally was a life-changing event.
So what got you there was your unique style and them noticing that, which is linoleum handmade block prints. And
yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Yeah. You know, most people, if they have a cool art program in the elementary school days, they might, or in middle school, potentially, you do what feels like you're carving a stamp. You know, it's like a piece of cork or like a linoleum, like a leathery material, and you carve out a design, and you roll ink on the carving and put paper on, and you print it. And that's usually most people's only experience, if that. And but printmaking is the oldest way of making multiples. You know, Japanese, medieval in times, you carve wood traditionally, and you would roll ink on the wood carving, put paper on it, and you can make multiples of the paper. It's, you know, akin to letterpress, how the letterpress made multiples for reading. And so, yeah, so the idea is that printmaking is actually like really robust medium. A lot of people do it. What I learned is that most people who do printmaking kind of stay in those printmaking circles. It's like if everybody who painted only showed and talked to other painters. It's a weird thing. And the subject matter and style, although diverse, it still kind of lives in this aesthetically similar area. And it's not a slight. The work is gorgeous, and I follow it for inspiration constantly. It's just that I noticed there was a gap, and the gap was my fandom, my love of pop culture, all the fun stuff that we celebrate. And I said, you know, and a buddy of mine, we were both doing it at the time, and we said, well, we should do this local Florida SuperCon and set up a booth and see what people do. And back then I was doing block prints, I was doing paintings, I was doing digital art to see what landed. And block printing really helped because I was able to make handmade artwork at a really large size, 20 by 30, and sell it at a price that was often less than people were selling digital prints for, because, you know, the materials at the time weren't that expensive. And I was, you know, I found, oh, this is a market niche, you know. And then my drawing style was always very important to me. I grew up loving Mike Mignola, Scott Morse, Eric Powell, you know, Jack Kirby, Frank Miller, guys whose work you see it and it could be anything. It could be a scribble and you go, that's that person. And so for me, it was important not only to adopt the medium because of the fact that it allowed me to put handmade artwork in people's homes at a super affordable price point compared to like if you wanted to buy the original of anything. You know, the original is usually one of a kind and it's a lot more. And so not only that, I wanted to have a drawing style that was unique and it stood out. And I think over the years, I kind of like found that apex where it was an interesting medium. It was tactile. It was processed based. People were interested in learning the process. It was what we did at Comic-Con in the booth. We brought the materials because how do you explain this abstract notion that people aren't familiar with it? We brought the materials. My wife, Gabby, and I, we would show a raw block that hadn't been carved. We would show the carving tools. We would show an in-between block. We would show, you know, the ink. And I think people really loved, beyond the artwork, the fact that they were getting to hang out with the artist and getting like a behind the scenes thing. And then the artwork almost became an artifact of the experience, like a souvenir of the experience more than just cool artwork I want to hang. And to me, that's always been important as a fan. You know, I've waited in line to meet everybody, you know, and I love when I meet an artist and it feels like they're happy to meet me. It's not always the case, you know. And so as a teacher for 13 years, knowing, you know, talking to kids and having to make time for every student and knowing and realizing when you screwed up and didn't give the kid the time he needed, or when you gave too much time, you know, I'm sensitive to that in people and adults. And as long as it's possible, I love being able to let people in. I'm grateful that they're there, for Christ's sakes. I mean, this is an insane opportunity, and give them a real inside taste of what this all is and how it gets done, and let them feel like they didn't just come and buy a product. They had an experience. And so that in addition to the art style, I think is what sets me apart, hopefully.
Absolutely. Darin, I think you had a real quick question.
Yeah, I did. I wanted you to tell the details about the Mondo statue based on your style that was revealed this weekend.
How crazy is that?
It is amazing. Like it's so perfectly you.
Thank you.
Like
so
you
much.
look at it and you're just like, yeah, that's an
I am so proud of it, but for more than just the obvious fact that it literally says Godzilla, Mondo, and Attack Peter all in the same, you know, ad. That's crazy enough. But I'm so proud of it because of the fact that, yes, like you said, it actually looks like a block print. It looks like a print,
yeah.
An unusual style. And every time there's an Attack Peter something, it's probably the first time that thing was done in this style. Because like I said before, it's a weird chasm between printmaking and pop culture. So every time, if I do a comic book cover, if we do a toy, right? But I'm most proud of this because the way the gig happened in the first place, the way I got a hold of Mondo, and, you know, when things were picking up for me online, I noticed I would pay attention to who followed me on Instagram. This is in case anybody wants to know how stuff like this happens. One of the people that follow me was a guy named Matt Hardiman. I noticed that he worked for Mondo. And I go, oh, dude, thanks for following me. I love Mondo. I'll tell you what, you like my work, I'll send you some free prints as long as you take the extra 10 that I send you and take it to Mondo HQ and leave it for them in the break room. Let them look at it. He goes, done. I sent it. You know, it was luck in meeting opportunity, right? So then a few months later, all this happened. Kevin Workman, Renee Lafargue at Kevin Workman, who hooked me up, took care of me. And Mondo's there. And I said, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to walk up to that booth and introduce myself to everybody. And they already knew me and they were already coming to my booth. But when they came to my booth, you know, most of what I had was like giant monster stuff, King Kong, Godzilla, Gamera, all this. And among artists, the ability to work on a Toho property was very difficult. You can somehow find access to Marvel. You can somehow find access to this and that. But the Toho Godzilla stuff was impossible to find. And so anybody who came to my booth before Mondo, especially anybody came to my booth and said, oh, we want to work with you on this. Let's work on that. I go, do you have the Toho license? Do you have the Toho license? Do you have the Toho license? I really want to work on the Toho license. Do you have it? And finally, when the guys from Mondo came over, Rob Jones specifically walks up and I go, dude, do you have the Toho license? He goes, we actually do have the Toho license coming up. That's it. And from that, everything happened. But the reason I want to bring that up is because flash forward a couple of years, here we are. The figure was after we released the first 3 prints and they did super well online. I went on Instagram Live to like thank people for buying them and it's selling out. And again, maybe a little audaciously, maybe a little bratty, you let me know. On the Instagram Live story, I saw one of the folks from Mondo show up and I go, look, it's so-and-so from Mondo. Everybody in the chat, tell them you want to see a Godzilla toy from Attack Peter style. It's kind of obnoxious, I guess, but you know, it could come off the wrong way. You never know how people are going to take things, but they were like, that's a good idea. They emailed me and that's it. And so I say that because a lot of times people come up to me and they tell me, I want to do this, but I don't think this. And should I do that? I don't know if it's going to work. Just make sure your heart's in the right place. Make sure you're a good person and your intentions are good. And then just go all out, dude. Just go. What's the worst that can happen? You apologize later if you come across a little bit too strong. Who cares?
Well, unfortunately, that is all the time that we have.
You're better off.
No. Thank you so much for joining us today, Peter.
My
We'd
pleasure.
love to have you on next year when
Anytime.
we can spend more time talking.
When
Real
we're in
quick,
person.
yes, absolutely. But tell our listeners real quick where they can find you online.
Yeah, anywhere online, Attack Peter, the store.skybound.com. You can find Attack Peter stuff there because that's, where Attack Peter is on Skybound. But anywhere, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, we have a show and we do live art. And you just heard Tom Lennon's going to come on the show. Booked it right here live. So we had Eric Powell a couple of weeks ago. We have different creators and artists. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, thank you so much. And by the way, Aisha Tyler's next. How cool is that?
Yes, very cool. All right. Thank you, Peter.
Guys. Take care.
Bye, Peter.
Bye. Thank you.
And also, now is the time where we say goodbye to Aaron. Thank you so much for.
My time is up. Thank you for having me. Such a joy. Oh, it's so good to see you, Andy.
Hey, how's everybody
Hi.
doing?
And Andy is joining us. So
yes. Thank you all. It's been
right.
awesome to see you guys. Have a lot of fun. Bye.
We will. Bye.
Bye, Aaron.
All right. And as Peter mentioned, joining us next is Aisha Tyler. She is an actress, director, panel moderator extraordinaire, and founder of the Courage+Stone craft cocktails.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Aisha.
Hey, how's it going?
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. So one of the reasons we wanted to have you come on is because obviously every year a lot of actors come to Comic-Con for work, but you genuinely seem like someone who just loves being there. What is it to you that makes Comic-Con special?
Oh, God. I mean, I feel like I finally found my tribe, like 3 decades later, because I was just I was such a nerdy sci-fi obsessed kid. I was the kind of kid that my mom would drop me off at the library when it opened on a Saturday at 9, and then I would hang out there until 3 until the movie theater opened, and then I would go to the movie theater and stay there until 10 at night, and then she'd pick me up. So the confluence of science and sci-fi and movies and television is everything I ever loved as a kid. And years and years ago, actually, when Seth Green was on my podcast, Girl on Guy, we were talking about kind of how great it is that all the things that made us outsiders when we were kids, are embraced so fully and so robustly now, I think, in popular culture, and especially at something like Comic-Con. And he was like, yeah, I mean, the word nerd is really bandied about pretty freely now, but you can't really call yourself a nerd if you didn't spend a major amount of your childhood playing alone. And I played alone as I was 16 years old. So to me, to be surrounded by other people that had a similar experience that love the same things that I love and are really celebrating them with abandon, I think is one of the best parts of Comic-Con.
Absolutely. So at Comic-Con, you've actually gotten up to moderating multiple panels in Hall H, including the WBDC panels in 2015 and 2018. What's the process like for moderating those panels? Do you work with WB and the teams to write the questions, or are you allowed to just come up with your own stuff?
It's super collaborative. I mean, I get to see a lot of the material before it's premiered in Hall H. I also did CinemaCon for them, and then I also last year did Hall of Heroes. I will say that they showed me the trailer for Joker, and I cried in a conference room. I really lost my marbles. So I'm as much a fan as anything when I do these things. And so all those questions come from my own sense of fandom first. I also don't know if you guys remember, but when we did the Suicide Squad panel, I ran off stage to take a picture and then wasn't on stage for the next movie for 3 minutes. And got a lot of trouble. I was like, guys, I'm taking a picture with Will Smith. You guys can wait. So, I'm there as a fan first. And I think that's why I get asked to do these panels, because I delight in everything that everybody else is there to delight in. And I'm super excited about the stuff that everybody else who's sitting in those chairs are excited about. I get to watch all the material. We talk about what's relevant. They have some things they really want to make sure we cover. And then there's a lot of me ad-libbing. Just trying to steal hugs from Aquaman and try not to be weird about it. And it's all still weird. There's a fair amount of weirdness in every panel that I moderate. But I also feel because I'm not a journalist, my relationship to the material is going to be different. And you know, I'm a fan, and then I'm also a creator. And so my way into the material is just going to be different from, you know, say somebody who's writing for a magazine and comes at from more of a critical eye. I think it's not that I don't ask probing questions. I love the world, and I want to be like the link between the fan and the material, and that's really how I approach it.
That is awesome, and I can personally attest. I've seen you moderate panels in some of the smaller venues like Ballroom 20, you know, quote unquote smaller than Hall H. And it totally comes off. We can feel your excitement and just how much you're really actually into the people that you're talking to. And it grabs us and brings it into the panel with everybody else. My question, though, is, do you feel that moderating those panels in the smaller venues is different from gigantic Hall H? And if so, how do you feel that it's different?
Well, you know, obviously there's more intimacy, but again, it is funny to like say that like Ballroom 20 and Hall H are somehow, you know, one's an intimate club setting and the other one is a stadium. They're pretty similar in experience. I will say that like the first Archer panel that we did, like season 2, I remember after season 1, I was like, if we get another season of Archer, I am going to demand that we go to Comic-Con. And then they were like, yeah, we're going, relax, like cool down, lady. And that first panel was in like Indigo or something like that, like Indigo Ballroom, you know, like a pretty intimate setting, like maybe 500 seats, maybe, compared to Hall H, which is I think like 20,000, I'm guessing. And it was the first time that any of us as a cast had ever watched Archer with anybody else than like our families. And even that room of 500 people laughing was like the most delirious, wonderful, like connective thing that any of us had ever had. Because we were like, I mean, we like the show, we think it's okay. And then to be able to experience it with fans was so wonderful. And I think in the smaller rooms, it's a little bit more interactive. It's a little bit more conversational. And then those big ones, you know, it's about spectacle, right? I mean, they really bring out the big guns when a studio, you know, gets Hall H. There's going to be big, you know, big sneak peeks, big teasers, big footage. I've also hosted pressers at E3 and, you know, and at CES, and, you know, those things have a global audience. And so like a little bit more of your orientation is towards the whole world. Whereas in the smaller rooms, you're really talking to, you know, to an audience, and it's a little bit more of a conversation. You know, the Archer panels are very not safe for work or Comic-Con or your mom. And the
18 plus,
panels,
yeah.
It should be like 45 plus probably. Whereas the Hall H shows are obviously going to be geared, you know, they're a little bit more family friendly and just bigger in scope, which is fun. I mean, I think I end up always doing a variety of panels at Comic-Con, and, you know, I'll do like, you know, like the EW kind of fan favorite panels, or we'll do like the great debate panels. And those are a little bit looser and a little bit more improvised. And those bigger panels, we have a lot of work to do, so they tend to be a little bit more buttoned up, but they're always really fun. I mean, it's really exciting when I've seen a sneak peek of something and I know how fun it was to wait for the audience to have that same experience. Like, I'm always really excited because I know what they're about to see and how stoked they're going to be.
Well, you actually brought up what I wanted to bring up, which was the great debate panel. I was there for the first one, and that was probably I've been going to Comic-Con for over 20 years, and that was probably one of my favorite panels ever.
Oh, awesome.
Was it as much fun for you as it was for us?
Totally. That's like, first of all, typically what happens is you're either seeing friends you haven't seen for a while and also making new friends out of people that you've seen on some show that you love. So that's like a really, really fun thing. And then it's super combative, but like in a fun kind of collegial way. So there's a lot of like smack talk. Those panels are so fun. It's also really fun to have to argue for something that you don't care about. Like inevitably something gets a topic that they're like, I don't know. You know, it's TIE Fighter versus X-Wing. Like they're both pretty cool. How do I come down on one side of this controversy? So it's typically just a really fun kind of workout. And I mean, I'm sure you guys feel this way, but I think this is like my 12th Comic-Con. There is something delightful about reassembling with people that you only see once a year. It's like summer camp. And that's what those panels feel like, because they're not really for your own show. They're not, you're not promoting anything specific. You're just there to have a good time. And so those, to me, in a lot of ways, really embody like the Comic-Con experience, which is like seeing people you love. You only get to see them for like 4 days in the middle of the summer. Everybody's super happy to be there. It's like the big basket of puppies, everybody falling all over each other. And it goes so quickly. So you're it's like summer camp, you're trying to hold on to the memories, that Sunday afternoon when you're just, broken in more ways than one, and just trying to hold on to the last kind of like beautiful hours of summer. God, I miss it, you guys. I'm getting really emotional. I'll be excited when we can be together in person again.
Hopefully next year. So I want to ask about something a little bit different. Some of our listeners may not know that you are not only a very talented actress, but you are also a talented director. How do you approach directing an episode of TV for something like Fear the Walking Dead or Roswell, New Mexico, where you're sort of coming onto the set fresh, versus something like Criminal Minds, where you worked on it?
Right. Yeah. That's a good question. I mean, obviously, when you're directing the show that you're on, you have a shorthand with the crew and the cast, and it's easier to kind of fold into the tempo and feel the show because you understand it so well, versus going to a show that you're coming in from outside and they've all been working together for a very long time, and you're really trying to kind of fold into their tempo in a lot of ways. And then the challenge for you as a television director is to bring something fresh and specific and personal to a show whose look and feel has been clearly established over a long period of time. You can't come in and reinvent the wheel on a show like Fear the Walking Dead that's been on for 6 seasons. So your goal is really to bring your own take, your own spin to something that has, is really well established and really beloved. Luckily for me, specifically with Fear, I'm a huge CWDU fan, and I know the show and I know the books, and I've seen every episode of all, of all the shows. So I already had a take coming in. I kind of knew what I wanted to do. And what's great about Fear specifically is it's very filmic. Criminal Minds is on, we did a lot of field work, but also we were on set a lot. We have the BAU is set and we know it. And we shoot a lot in these sets that we've been working on for years, the jet, that stuff. My episode of Fear the Walking Dead was all like new locations to me. That show's really a Western, and I really shot it like a Western. And so I really had to come in with a take on what, a post-apocalyptic Western meant, what that meant to me, what those visual cues looked like, what they felt like. It was awesome. I mean, I got to introduce a major new character on my episode, which was just the coolest thing ever. And I got to do action, and I got to do zombies, and I got to ride horses, and I got to shoot. I mean, it was like everything I ever wanted to do as a kid, I got to direct. So, and then because I'm a fan, I put a lot of Easter eggs on my episode. So that was a really fun thing to do. For Roswell as well, because I love genre, I love sci-fi. But for Fear, I really buried a lot of visual references to the rest of the universe. There's a walker that represents Negan. There's a walker that represented the dead pioneers, kind of the end of the pioneers. There's a walker that represented June's old life and her metamorphosizing into a different kind of survivor. And we said goodbye to this like major character and this major set, right? Because that was probably the last we were ever going to see of John Dory's cabin. So I got to put a lot of fan-focused lore into that episode. And there's also a shot in my episode that refers to a shot from season 2 of The Walking Dead. Like I literally pulled a reference from the very beginning of the show and dragged it all the way forward into this other world. And so all that stuff was really fun for me as a fan, because I know how much fun it is when I find that stuff as a fan. So I really wanted to give fans a lot to look for in the episode.
Awesome.
That's really awesome. And honestly, speaking of being a fan, my wife is a really big fan of Criminal Minds. So that's really where, when we saw you moderating the Great Debate, that's really where we came in knowing you from. But one of the things that I love about Comic-Con is seeing actors and creators in different, just being themselves. And I remember at one point you dropped an F-bomb, and my wife leaned over to me and said, Aisha Tyler just dropped an F-bomb. We're not used to seeing that.
Definitely not on Criminal Minds. No, on wholesome primetime entertainment. Yes, for sure. But that's also the fun of Comic-Con, I think, right? Is seeing these people that you recognize or that who's on in shows that you love, kind of in an unguarded state, right? In like a truthful, honest kind of present state, which I love. I love that about it. I mean, I feel like I feel like I like jumped all over Denai Guerrero one year. Like, I'm just trying to think about all the people that like I ran up on and they were like, lady, you know, when I was at Comic-Con. But it's getting to see these people in a new context. And so sometimes, I mean, apparently you've never gone to an Archer panel because we dropped more than F-bombs on that panel. That panel is like an enter at your own risk kind of thing. So I think I was probably being relatively tame for the Great Debating panel. I was trying to be a nice lady.
So to take things again in another direction, you created your own brand of pre-mixed cocktails, Courage+Stone. What was the concept behind that?
Courage+Stone it came out of my own personal experiences because I traveled a lot for work. And I mean, you know, even connecting it back to Comic-Con and the things I've done at Comic-Con, I've done a lot of collaborative work with Stone Brewing. They do HopCon every year and I would do a beer with them. And I'd have all these really great cocktail experiences, you know, beer experiences. And I wanted to create them at home. And I just started buying the stuff to kind of make drinks at home. And I realized it gets a lot of work and it's super expensive and it's a pain. And you want to come home on a Wednesday night and have a good drink and, like, you know, watch your favorite show. And I just didn't want to go through the effort. And I'm really like a kind of drink better, not more kind of a person. I feel like one really great drink is what I want, not like kind of like a sad, like light beer or some kind of fizzy malt liquor beverage. So I just was like, probably most people don't want to go through all this effort. And I started batching cocktails and keeping them in my fridge. So like I could just pour out, you know, 2 ounces of Negroni when I got home, or my friends came over, I'd have a cocktail like already made in the fridge. And that was really how it came about. It was just, I mean, it's not like I'm solving like world peace, but it was a real world problem I was solving, which was most people would love to have a great cocktail, don't know how to make it, don't have the ingredients, don't have the knowledge. And I really wanted to make something that was super premium, that didn't have any like stabilizers or colors or weird ingredients in it. Just something that was the same quality as what you would get in a great bar. And that was where it came about. And I actually did an activation one year at Comic-Con. I've done a couple of activations where we've like served my HopCon beer, Wood Stout, and then served Courage+Stone just to, you know, kind of give the fans an opportunity to try it out before it came on the market. And that stuff was all really fun, getting to share that experience with Comic-Con attendees.
Awesome. Well, to continue along that theme, not to like blow your cover or anything, but do you have like a cocktail themed tradition like at Comic-Con? Like, do you have a favorite bar or a favorite drink that you have every year at Comic-Con?
Oh, that's a really good question. So the Grant Hotel, which was the original site of Comic-Con before it got so like turned into, you know, like Funtime Death Star. It used to be just in the basement of that hotel. And they have a great cocktail program. Like we would always, Archer cast would always go there and have dinner and have cocktails there. And they have like amazing bar staff, amazing cocktails. So we drink there, and there's a place called Lion's Share that I used to host like Comic-Con parties at every year, and I would DJ and stuff like that. And they have a really great program. I mean, San Diego is a great cocktail town, like great. And I will admit, because I'm a grown lady and my mom is not on this call, that typically after Comic-Con, after Saturday, after you got all your panels out of the way, we would go a little ham. We go around and cause some trouble. And so then on Sunday, we would go to like Crafts and Commerce or something like that and have like brunch, have like cocktail brunch. So those are kind of my 3 favorite places to go when I'm there. But I feel like San Diego is like a perfect cocktail town. Like there's a million great bars. It's a great place. You don't have to drive anywhere. You can walk or get in one of those, you know, infernally slow pedicabs and cycle up the street at none miles an hour. It's a great place to have a good time, and it's grown up summer camp, which is the best part of Comic-Con.
That is the perfect description for what Comic-Con is. Yep.
Yeah, the term
Absolutely.
"fun time Death Star" I think is going to stick with me.
That is really, it's like, it's great, but it's just so big, and you really have to kind of pick your battles with it. I feel like it took me a long time to figure out how to have fun at Comic-Con and not feel overwhelmed. I don't know if that tracked for you guys, but for the first couple of years, it was like impossible to do everything. You really have to just kind of choose a few things, and then at some point be like, okay, we're gonna like get away from here and go have dinner in a normal place with normal people where we can sit down and not eat like, you know, a hot dog out of our sad and sweaty fist or whatever we've been doing all day. But oh God, I love it.
Our site basically exists because Comic-Con is essentially unmanageable for any
person on their own. Yeah.
Right, it's impossible. And then everything you feel like you kind of figured it out, and then at the end you're like, oh, I wish I'd done this. Or you see somebody walking on the street, like, oh, where did they get that? So there's always like the feeling of, oh man, there's like, you know, a little bit more I could have done. But that's what next year is for.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we could talk Comic-Con all day, obviously, but that is all we have time for right now.
Thanks,
but where can we find you and Courage+Stone online? Yeah.
So you can find me. I'm at Aisha Tyler on all social platforms. Very easy. Courage+Stone is at courageandstone.com, and we are on sale in stores in California and New York. But you can have it shipped to your house anywhere in America if you go to courageandstone.com. So you can literally have a cocktail sent to your house. And even though we're back to being indoor outdoor kids again, in a lot of places, we're still having to kind of shelter and do a little bit of kind of, you know, more like fun stuff at home. So if you want cocktails at your house, if you don't want to go to a bar, Courage+Stone is a great solution because you can have the bar sent to you. So courageandstone.com, and come say hi to me online.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us today, Aisha. We
It's
greatly
such a pleasure.
appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Have fun and stay safe, everybody. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Well, coming up next, we have Martin Sue.
And Martin Sue is a contemporary artist specializing in new traditional Asian art. And there he is.
Hey, Martin. I think you're on mute.
What's up, guys? Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey.
Comic-Con.
All right.
Love the setup behind you, first of all.
You like my booth? My booth,
do.
my studio?
I do. It's really cute. I mean, I think it's great. All right. So let's just get into it. For anyone not familiar with your art, though, if you've been following along with our blog or our Twitter at all in the last couple of weeks, you should be. How would you describe your work?
Let's see. So I worked in animation for about 10 years. So you'll see a lot of sort of cartoon animation inspired art. Huge fan of Studio Ghibli. Hayao Miyazaki, sort of a fantasy mentor for me. I think for Comic-Con is really one of the very few times out of the year where I dive really deep into fandom. So behind me, you'll probably see a lot of Studio Ghibli inspired art. And I worked at Disney and Nickelodeon for a while, and on preschool shows and on teen, 9 to 11 shows. So I don't know. I think they tend to be cute, and my hope is always my artwork to bring like collectors, some happiness, a sense of joy, and something that they'll put up on their wall and they'll smile whenever they look at it. That's sort of always my hope. Oh my God, that's me.
Why don't you show off all of your stuff that you got in your booth there?
Yeah, I've been busy. There's a lot of stuff here.
You've been very busy. So go ahead, James.
When did you start prepping for this year's Comic-Con, and how does that process compare to in-person con?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's a really great question. Considering this is my 16th year as an exhibitor, I've definitely, sort of learned my mistakes through trial and error. I know for me personally, it takes about a whole month to really sort of do research, like do my homework, right? You got to know what you're drawing, and then do all the rough sketch, and then produce all the artwork. So yeah, it takes about a whole month doing, in fact, both in person and online, just because I'm basically producing the same amount of work, as you can see. And also I make vinyl toys. So like for some of the resin figures or some of the vinyl toys, that takes place months in advance, like these pufferpuss resin figures. I worked with an artist, Misa Mitote, in Mexico. So we started this process 5 months ago. I told them I have this idea, here's some turnarounds, here's some sketches, what can we do? And then of course there's a whole month of shipping, and then sometimes they get stuck in custom, and that's always fun. So you gotta just learn that, okay, if you think it's gonna take 2 months, it's probably gonna take 5 months. So you definitely, like give yourself enough time. And then for, like, say, the Dragon Boy artist series, where, they're all customs, where 3 months in advance, I send out blanks to, artists all over the world. Like, I work with artists in San Francisco, Mr. Nagata, and some artists in Japan, and that takes time to ship. So yeah, it really is an ongoing process. And so this is why, like the time like this week is so exciting, where I really get the opportunity to present everything, at the same time. And I just want to say thank you so much for all your posting, retweeting. As independent artists, I greatly, greatly appreciate your support and your reach. So you guys are awesome.
Absolutely. That's what we're trying to do always.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd say all of us love art and love artists, at least in some way, shape, or form. Most of us, our first stop is Artist Alley. But my question, because of your unique style that you have going, how important is representation in your artwork?
That's a really good question, and it's so good to talk to you, Andy, sort of face-to-face virtually.
Right.
On Twitter. Yeah, that's a really good question, because as an Asian American artist, and I also show work in galleries, so I sort of, two sides to my world. There's all the major works, the bigger paintings that you see in the background that I show in the galleries, and then I have fun things, that also I want to represent the fun side of me, where I put up for Comic-Con. It's really interesting, because when I first started, representation really wasn't, and not that it wasn't a big deal, but it never resonated with me so deeply as it does now. And I don't know if it's because I'm older now, I've been doing this for a long time. Just in the past, I want to say 6 or 7 years, it's really kicked in. I feel like art for me really is a way for me to share my heritage, and share my cultural influences. I grew up in Taiwan, and I grew up with Totoro. I grew up with Sanrio, and this is why you see so much of that in the narrative in my art and in the design in my art, because that's what I know. And for me, really, that's all I can do and offer is draw what I know and share what I know. So, and through that, I've met so many incredible people along this journey, especially like, say, Dragon Boy, the sort of what I call the Asian American superhero. Like, Dragon Boy was created about 15 years ago. And to be honest, for those who are not familiar, I have, I don't know, just some artwork here I can share real quick. But, here's a little boy in a dragon suit, and he hangs out with his dog, which is inspired by my dog that I grew up with. And these are all his animal friends under the sea.
It's awesome.
But just through Dragon Boy, I feel like I've met people that really resonated the fact that he represents the Asian American identity. And for me as well, it's taken me, 15 years really to understand what he stands for, what his journey is. And in fact, last night, I just had my own little panel with 2 industry writers, my friend Teresa Huang, who works as a staff writer on MacGyver, she's Asian American, like outspoken, powerful woman. And then my buddy Josh Pruitt, who just won an Emmy working on, Phineas and Ferb. Like the 3 of us have been having Zoom calls once a week for the past 4 months, really diving into the world of Dragon Boy. And none of this would exist and happen without a little drawing of a boy in a dragon suit. So yeah, it's pretty incredible.
So what are you hoping to collaborate with them on?
So this is very exciting to share. I've been pitching Dragon Boy at Disney, at Hasbro, at Warner Brothers, at, like for the entire, like throughout the entire 10 years. And it never hit. And I think I know why. It's because I'm a guy with many, many ideas on Post-its. And I've realized my downfall really is I lack training in pulling all those ideas together and make it into a solid story, beginning, middle, and end. And what we are trying to achieve with Teresa and Josh is just that. It's a complete story about Dragon Boy that not just Asian Americans can relate to, but anybody who's ever felt a little lost, anyone who has ever gone to a foreign country and feel like, they don't belong. It's a universal story. where along the path he makes friends from all kinds of different worlds. And the tangible thing we're trying to do, and this is also very exciting, and if all goes well, by 2022 Comic-Con, I'll have this in my hands. But we are working on a book. So instead of a graphic novel, which is a tremendous undertaking, and I tried so hard to do it, and it's just so much work, because I can't do drawing and writing. I just can't. I can draw. So what we're doing is we're actually working on a novel with illustrations inserted in between. And so, yeah, again, fingers crossed, by next year, this time, maybe we'll have a book to share with you guys.
Well,
that would be
great.
awesome. Yeah,
that's really great. Bringing your own thing in. And as you mentioned, you started in animation in character design for companies like Disney. When you were doing that, were you able to create from scratch, or were you like, here's the character we want you to create, now show us what you got? What I mean,
Yeah.
was it more creative, or was it like get the job done?
It's so funny. I'm so glad you asked that, because I know and have a lot of friends who make the perfect production character designer, because they can morph their style into anything that the creator wants. I, for one, I think I felt, let's just say, when I was at Nickelodeon and Disney, I felt more joy when I was making art for Comic-Con. That's my own stuff, okay? My dream was always to become a character designer, to work in the industry, and I did that. And it's because of that where I met friends who told me about, oh yeah, you can get a booth at Comic-Con, I'm like, what? What does that even mean? And then little by little, it's so funny, back in 2005, in my first year, I had a booth with 6 of my friends. We called us the rhythm sections, like a band, and it's just basically 6 artists, and we each had a tiny little sketchbook. And we're like, we can do this? Whoa, So yeah, to answer your question, I've been on my own now for 10 years. Thanks to everybody who's supported me for the last decade, that I really realized this is what I'm sort of meant to do. And I still take up freelance gigs here and there, creating characters for other people. But it really is when I am doing this, I am the most happy.
You know what? I totally get that. And you're honestly not the first artist that we've ever heard that from.
No.
But yeah, you mentioned the booth at Comic-Con, and we showed the slide earlier of you at your virtual booth this year. Has that helped you feel more of a connection to the con, despite not being able to be there in person and see all the fans?
Absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, this does not beat being at Comic-Con. I was just chatting with my friends, this morning, how I missed everyone. It's like the one time of the year where I get to see all my friends flying from all over the world. We'd be like getting brunch right now and this and that. But interestingly, even the process of setting up this booth, like fulfills a void, kind of. Like I can kind of pretend, like, oh yeah. That's what it is, right? It's all play. It's just pretend. It's
kind of like the convention center, right?
Yeah, I mean, without the frenzy, but it's like setting stuff up, like getting my little acrylic stands out, like my little book stands. I'm like, oh, can they see the stuff in the back? Like as the people are gonna see, But yeah, definitely, I would say this experience brings me much closer to being on the floor, definitely.
And then I wanted to ask, your art this year in particular just feels so fun and light. And did you consciously set out to evoke those feelings, especially as we are kind of in the second year of a bummer year?
Yeah, I think it's definitely, so I feel like my intention for my art has always been, I want to make something that's uplifting. So it's always in there. But I feel like during the pandemic, oh man, like that element inside of me just like is in like overdrive. It just reacts on its own. So I feel like the art that I've been making during the pandemic has really been even on like a higher, level of joy and happiness. And the feedback that I get is the best, right? Like that is exactly what I want to hear from my collectors. It's like, you are so cute, and there's so much power that lies in cute and healing power, you know, which is sort of what we need right now. So I would say so. I would say definitely. I mean, if you find my art to be humorous and uplifting, then I feel like I've done my job as an artist.
I feel like you definitely have.
Yeah, I definitely noticed it. So of all the art, do you have a favorite piece that you did for Comic-Con this year?
That is a great question. So I would say that these are my favorite pieces because I was literally like cracking up when I was painting them. They're just like, oh, that is so dumb. People are going to love it. But I just want to show you. So I'm going to start with this series. It's basically like my little match of, you know, one of my favorite Ghibli characters, but in space. So it's basically Totoro cosplaying some of our classic Star Wars characters as the Ewok, and, you know, he's riding on his little sand crawler as Jawa, and then of course as R2-D2. And of course the thing is acorns, because, you know, Totoro was always out collecting acorns. So you have like the acorn hunter, you have the acorn collector, and then you have the acorn scavenger. I'm just like, oh, this is so funny. Yeah, this is when I know I have, you know, something good to share.
I think those are adorable. Will you talk a little bit too about the super cute Marvel cat prints that you did this year?
Yes, thank you for bringing it up here. Yes, absolutely. So the little paintings behind you probably can't see, but they're right here. Those paintings also, so thank you so much. I'll show you the prints that are still available. I just had this dumb, funny, weird idea of like our favorite heroes and heroines being featured with their cats, even though there are no cats on the show. I just thought it would be funny, because then like, you have the cats that look like them. So of course, you know, you have Wanda and Scarlet, obviously for obvious reasons. And you can probably tell like they're designed the same way, just like a lot of us who look like our pets, or vice versa. And of course we have Vision, and this is Mindy, as in, you know, it's sort of based on the Mind Stone, but not Mindy, it's Mindy. So this is a Vision of Mindy. And last but not least, a crowd favorite, of course, this is Loki and Mischief.
Yeah, when you sent those over to me, I was like, oh, this Loki one's gonna do really well.
It's literally the original was among the first to go, so thank you.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. Awesome. Well, all the prints are still available on your website, as well as a couple originals.
Yeah.
Yep. You can. And why don't you tell our listeners where they can find all of that information and you on the internet?
Cool. Awesome. So if you guys are doing some Comic-Con shopping, my SDCC 2021 collection is martinshoe.bitcartel.com. It's really easy, just martinshoe.bitcartel. If you're interested in my gallery work, it's just my name, martinshoe.com. If you're interested in my animation work, it's martinshoedesign.com. Lots and lots of websites.
You're everywhere.
You wear a couple different hats.
I get around, you know.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Barton, for taking the time to join us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Yes.
Happy Comic-Con.
And hopefully we will see you in person next year. Yes.
Yes, I would love that. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
See ya.
All right. And next up, we are joined by Darin DePaul, voice actor who you might recognize from such titles as Shazam, Overwatch, Halo Infinite, Spider-Man, and so many more. And as soon as there he is.
There we go.
There he is.
Hi,
Hey.
Darin.
I always get so nervous with these going, can anyone hear me?
We can't.
What are we even doing? Hi.
Hi, Darin. I miss you.
I miss you guys so much. And you know what I miss? I was talking to my wife, Deb, the other day when we were talking about Comic-Con. And I was like, I miss the outside of the convention center, which arguably is one of the worst experiences ever. But I was like, it's everyone waiting to get in and they're excited. And who knows what magic is going to happen inside. And it just, I had a lot of nostalgia for that. I'm an odd old man.
No, I mean, I think we're all nostalgic for all of that, especially
the
this year.
energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
All
can't
right.
wait to get back to it. And now I'm hoping that maybe in December there will be some projects that bring me. You never know. I mean, Halo Infinite is coming out by the end of the year, so that would be terrific. I'd love to be there for that.
Well, I hope
If
they
we're
invite
safe.
you. Yes, if we're
Yes.
safe. So catch us up on what you've been doing for the last year.
Oh, right. We have, in 2 seconds. I've been very, very lucky. This is where I record. So I'm doing a lot of animation. And some of the animation, there's an Amazon series. A lot of it was done right here. But within the last 3 months, we've been able to go back to studios, which is just joyful that you're back. No one is, directors aren't there, but you've got an engineer, you're in a studio recording. So I have 3 animated movies that are coming up next year. I can't say them yet, but Halo Infinite is coming up. Psychonauts 2, I will announce that. I'm in Psychonauts 2. That's next month. I'm Truman Zanotto, the head of the Psychonauts. I'm Tin Can Zanotto when he turns into a goat hand puppet. It is the most joyful, wonderful game, and the art style is so unique. Tim Schafer has done some great, great stuff. So I hope people are looking forward to that. That's a really cool experience. But yeah, I'm doing all these new series based on original stuff. It's all new characters. So that's exciting for me to get to do, crazy, crazy new stuff. Still doing the monster stuff, still doing Hulk for Avengers and all that. Was I with you last year when we talked about I had to do facial capture for Hulk right here and Deb had to put the dot?
Yes, that's crazy.
Yes, I remember that.
Yes, that's insane. And we've at least gotten back to be able to do facial capture with professionals because I don't.
Yes. Deb doesn't have to double his makeup.
Yes. And she's been doing some pilots, and little by little, I think we're getting slowly creeping back to normal with, the processes in place to keep us all safe. But we're long for that joy of being together and celebrating all the stuff we love and thanking, people that love it back.
Well, first of all, I would like to point out that you are an insanely snappy dresser. I am digging that suit you're wearing.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. And also, you mentioned Halo Infinite. What can you tease about that?
It's super cool. It was my very first full performance capture. So what you're going to see of Escharum, I think that there's no secret that he is your big nemesis. In it, that was me. And the voice, they treated a little bit, but they were like, we want it to sound like Darin. So, when I'm doing that thing, I don't know how close I can get to a mic. So, because it was, I'm trying to remember some of it. It was, bare your fangs, Spartan. Fight hard. Die well. I don't know if I have the resonance in here, but that's Escharum. And it was super cool to be on a set with other performers really living it. I'm so excited. And we did a little bit here because the game got pushed a year. So they were kept tweaking and adding. They care so much about the story and the experience. They just want everyone to be blown away and overwhelmed. And I think you're going to care about Escharum. That's all I'm going to say. He's got his own reasons, but he's not your typical bad guy.
Interesting. So,
do you guys play Halo? Do you like Halo? Is it?
I don't. I haven't. But I've, obviously it's one of the biggest things ever. So I'm sure there's plenty of our listeners and viewers who do.
Yes,
people do enjoy it. It's to those, it's as big as the Star Wars universe. It's just they're telling a great story. And I got a couple Star Wars things coming up. So.
Oh,
okay.
Interesting. So you mentioned that you've been starting to do some new things.
Yeah.
When you get a new role, what draws you to the character?
Panic. Am I going to do this right? Will they like me? Am I? what's weird about what we do, it's not like going in for theater where you prep. I'll film her auditions. We turned this space into like an office. This corner is my, recording studio. Over there, we film all her theater and film and television auditions. So she'll prep forever. With me, an audition comes in, I'll look at it and go, oh, okay, let me give them an interesting read on that, and then move to the next. I don't have time, to sweat it out. It's like, here's my choice. I've started lately giving 2 takes to go, well, I could go this way or this way, depending on, this might surprise you. So it's not so much what draws me to it. It's giving them something unique. I love working. I love working with writers and animators and directors. It speaks to my soul. So every time I have an audition, I put my heart into it. And, you're not going to get 99% of what you audition for. I had one come through last month. The reference was me. I didn't get it.
That's amazing.
We're looking for what Darin Paul did in Final Fantasy 15, and they send it to me, and I'm like, well, I'm Darin Paul, but okay, because you go, will you do that voice? That voice belonged to Arden in Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
that's there. I mean, with creatures, you can kind of go and do that same kind of, but when it's that kind of an identifiable character, you want to keep it separate. So, and I've been very lucky to go from Arden to Reinhardt to Revenant in Apex Legends, and now all these cool animated things. Some are, for kids, some are for adults. We're doing so much in this world where people can connect again through what they love. That's why I like it.
So I want to talk about Overwatch, which is where I feel like your career really just started to skyrocket.
Hey, someone sent me that. Remember who it was?
I do remember.
It was you. Because how did that happen from me to get a party for this, that we love? And then you're going, hey, here's a thing for you.
Yeah. So fun behind the scenes story. I was messaging with Darin, and Darin was like, oh, I'm so excited about this. I'm probably gonna have to go buy one on eBay. And I was like, they're not gonna send you one? Like, it's literally your character. And he was like, no, they don't do that. So I was like, well, hold on. I know some toy people. So I messaged Ezra, and I was like, look, I've never asked you guys for anything. Like, please send this man his toy.
Well, that was when I would go to your parties before no one really knew me, and I'd like, I want to win some stuff, and you gave away great stuff. I have them over there on the shelf. So it's stuff that we just treasure because I'm as big a geek as anybody out there, and I love, Comic-Con and seeing what everybody else loves and finding new stuff. We found Outlander through Comic-Con.
Oh, fun.
Yeah,
fun.
We just saw they were doing an offsite and we loved it. And now we're devoted Outlander fans. But you had a question about another project.
That's okay. Let's talk about the toy. Like, what was that like, seeing your character as a Comic-Con exclusive toy?
Again, never thought it was going to happen. How did that happen? From collecting, Star Wars stuff from Kenner. I'm still a big action figure collector. Hey, it's me. And to have one like that, I never thought it would happen. And that Overwatch gives that gift, and that he's such a positive, wonderful character, and there's a sweetness to him. And I've just been delighted to be able to play. He's one of the few heroes that I play right now. I got some coming up that are nice, but yeah, they tend to go, you do the bad guy well. I look like an accountant, but apparently I do the bad guy very well.
Well, accountants can be bad guys too, I guess.
Good point.
So as you mentioned, we love going to Comic-Con, and we're all missing the con this year. Do you have a particular favorite tradition at a convention that you're really missing?
Carrie, you can probably say this with me right now. Nerd HQ.
Oh my God, I miss it always.
Nerd HQ was the ultimate. Those years when it was at Comic-Con. Yeah.
The best. Yeah.
That was everything to me. And that I love that San Diego transformed and that everywhere you went, you were welcome, and you'd find something you loved or you'd visit something you loved. That meant so much to me, because other conventions, yeah, you go to convention center and it's in there and that's great. But this was, you know, the town transformed. That's the power of Comic-Con, and I hope we get back to it. I'm thrilled to see what they have planned for December. You know,
no, I'm November, but yes,
November,
I'm excited. Yes, I'm very, very excited to see
Yeah.
what's up their sleeve for that.
Yeah. But what else? What else can I tell you? I have so much I want to tell you, and it's like I can't talk about that. I can't talk about that. I can't talk about that.
Okay, we don't want to get you in trouble.
Well, it's also I don't want to spoil a surprise. Half of what we do in telling a story is you don't want to know in advance. You want to be, and again, like Aisha was saying, you want to be in that audience, knowing what's going to happen, but seeing their reaction the first time to that episode of Archer. Everybody's into it and laughing. It's so exciting. So I never want to go, yeah, this is coming up and it's this, and because it might ruin it.
That is really interesting. And you were talking about what San Diego Comic-Con means to you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have one specific memory, any specific event or moment in particular that stands out that really embodies and encapsulates that?
We talked about it last year, but it was meeting Carrie for lunch. It was on the Sunday. Well, I got to do the prize mule.
Yeah, the winner tweeted at us the other day. I don't know if you were on that.
I saw
I was
it.
like, oh yeah.
and then we did that, and it was joyful, and people came and we said hi. But then we were just walking down the street and someone had an Overwatch shirt, and it was, I think it was 2017 or 2018 when Overwatch was still really, really huge. And we passed them and I did the voice.
Yep.
Just behind them, and they just straightened up and turned and with this big smile on their face, and you go, that's what it's about. It's that giving back and going, thank you for loving this thing that we love doing. So I always remember that. But yeah, being at Nerd HQ, doing the Sesame Street panel where we were sitting by each other, and Thrilling Adventure Hour is one of my favorite things. And one of the things that's gotten me through is because I'm friends with, Mark Gagliardi and Hal Lublin. We've been doing monthly trivia nights on Zoom.
Oh, fun.
With them, with some of the people from Mystery Science Theater, with some of the people from Venture Brothers. And you're like, these are funny, witty people doing trivia. It's a blast. And then we also did, because I know you have Star Trek Discovery writers coming up, one of my favorite shows. I love it. Got us through. And I had done a production, the national tour of Little Shop of Horrors with Anthony Rapp. And twice during the pandemic, we did Zoom Family Feud. And Anthony would call in from, they were in Canada filming the show. And he'd call in and we just all get together and play games and reminisce. And it's this great family that you have when you're working on projects, that you bring that joy to Comic-Con and go, we got to do this together. And I think we're all longing for that, to go, we got to do this together. Instead of, we're all in our separate little places and we're making a thing, but we don't get to really be together.
Absolutely. Well, as such a fan of Nerd HQ, I'm just going to ask, was it like extra special then to get to be able to do voices in Shazam?
Yes. That was amazing. That we got to do it, myself and Steve Bloom and the amazing Fred Tatasciore. We got to record together for several sessions, and watching those men do these creature sounds. And there was a wonderful story with Fred, who is beyond talented. They just wanted some noises, like, oh, so do you want this kind of creature deep guttural thing with a Doppler effect? And would you like bubbles on top of it? And then he does it, and you're sitting there going, I'm so glad to be in this room right now. I don't know how he's doing it, but I get to see it close up. So yeah, Shazam was great. They're making a sequel. Maybe the 7 Deadly Sins will be back. Who knows? We always hope for it, but there's some good stuff coming up for, I got some more Warner Brothers things. I was just in, I'm old, I forget, but the animated stuff that they do for the DC characters. I'm in.
Oh, yeah.
So
The Warner Brothers Home Animation stuff. Yeah.
I was just in one for the Justice Society, and I have 3
Fun.
more different projects getting to do some really cool DC characters, and maybe one of those will bring me, and I can share my joy on that. So
Awesome. Well, we're friends with Gary Marinu, so if you see him, say hi.
I have not met him yet. I know him, and I would love to meet him because he's as big a fan as we are.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm so excited. Thank you guys for doing this, for letting us connect again. And it's just a thrill. It makes my heart happy, my friends. It doesn't make mine. Sorry. I don't know who that was, just generic monster.
That's okay. James, I think you have a question.
Yeah. So you've voiced a bunch of different characters now. Is there a cosplay that a fan has created of one of your characters that you've just been blown away by?
I'm very lucky in that my character is very elaborate. If you look at Reinhardt, he's massive, and I've seen a lot of them. I'm like, how? But then Arden Azunia in Final Fantasy, it's very elaborate, and so many people love Arden, and I just geek out, going deep attention to detail. The time that you put into creating this look, this is phenomenal. So I miss that of getting to go to a convention, get a picture with them, and compliment their work. Because, the cosplayers and the artists there. Yeah, I collect all the art at, on Artist Alley. I love that stuff. I have some favorite artists.
I know that I know a couple of them.
Yes.
Awesome.
Well, that's what we love. It's showing up, going, what do you got for me this year? I love this piece. Like the Scarlet Witch piece that Martin had. I was like, that's fantastic. I know everybody liked the Loki, but I was like, that Scarlet Witch piece is beautiful.
It is. Yeah, he's a cool guy. All right. Well, unfortunately, I think we are out of time. But Darin, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you?
Well, I'm Darin DePaul. You can find me on Twitter. Sometimes I'm very bad at Instagram, but I'll do more once we can do things. And just spread some joy, and I'll dress nicely. And just, you'll know me because I look like an accountant, but I play a villain. And I'm sending joy to everybody. Here's to when we can all be together.
Yes.
And celebrate. That was like an orc celebrating. Sorry for everybody who is now in pain.
I think everyone at the IRS says I look like an accountant, but I play a villain.
I love you so much. You're getting it in. Okay. When we get back, we're all having lunch.
Yes, we should. I know. I miss you.
Looking forward to that.
Tell Deborah I said hi as well.
I will. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much for joining us, Darin.
Always a pleasure.
Right.
Bye-bye.
All right, and we are going to be saying goodbye to Andy as well. He is making way for Kim to join us. So thank you, Andy, so much for coming on and helping us out for the last hour.
Hey, thank you guys for letting me come on. This is a blast. I love doing this every year.
This is stressful but awesome.
Exactly. Exactly the way to describe Comic-Con in general.
Yes, exactly. All right. Thank you again, Andy, and we will see you online.
All right, you guys have a good one.
Oh, wait, first, where can we find you online?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter and the Gram in my Comic-Con life as SDCC Wacky Wags. Now, if you want to go a little bit more 21 plus, I do have my own podcast. I actually got to talk to Scott Shaw a little while ago as well. That is Canabloggers Corner. You can find me as SD Canabloggers. So if you want to check me out, Scott and I had some great times talking about his wild days back in San Diego.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Andy. And now we have Kim. Hi, Kim.
Hello.
Outside Comic-Con. Yep. And we also have Patrick Ballesteros,
who is joining us now. And Patrick Ballesteros, as probably most of you know, is an artist and an illustrator.
Hi, Patrick.
Hello.
Hey.
I apologize for any background noise that may
No, yeah, you're fine because you were actually in the middle of your pop-up shop. So extra special thank you for joining us today.
Sorry, I'm signing something right now. Sorry.
It's bringing a little bit of Comic-Con online, like we're supposed to be doing.
Yes. And I'm going to be giving you that Blair Witch camera for a second. Sorry.
It's okay. No, you're
How are
fine.
y'all doing?
Good.
Thanks for inviting me back.
Always, we're big fans of you and your work.
I'm big fans of you and your work. You were doing the fight over here too, trying to keep everyone have that spirit going, which has been pretty cool to see.
So Kim went earlier and was sending us photos of fairly long lines.
I was excited to see a line, actually. It's very Comic-Con. It felt good. I know, and I have now in my hands one of your exclusives.
Very nice. Thank you for waiting. It was good to see you.
Good to see you.
In person. Like, this is like, sort of, I just saw this. I just saw you. You're real. I know you're real. What's happening?
It's not just virtual anymore. It's happening.
Does it feel like Comic-Con? Like actually seeing real live human beings?
Yeah, it does actually. It did. Especially the line. When I just, for me, I always feel bad when I see people waiting, and then I'm just walking the line, thanking people, and a lot of people were like, "No, thank you for doing this." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." So, and a lot of people were just totally cool. They're like, "Oh no, this is fine. I like this." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's great." Sweet.
I think honestly, we're all so desperate for anything that feels like Comic-Con that
Yeah, that's why I'm wearing a throwback badge, but I wanted to wear my 2015 badge. I think this is when things started to get crazy, so that's why I wanted to wear it and before the whole tap days. So yeah.
Yes, love it. All right, Kim, I think you had a question about that beautiful print that you bought today.
Yes, hang on. Well, that kind of cartography inspired map of the convention, as you were putting it together, what elements did you draw upon, or that you thought were essential to add into it?
I think everything started with Hall H first, because of course that's the iconic monument, even though there really isn't one. Like, that's the iconic monument I always think of. And then afterwards, of course, a lot of the places that I think about, like any artist alley or small press, or just where all the vendors are. So I had a few key areas in mind. And then my wife said, no, you have to do the bridge too, because that's where people are walking. And of course, the plane. Of course, the crossing is always super important. So I had a couple of those iconic things in mind, and then just trying to figure out a way to weave them together. And yeah, that's what took the longest. But it's one of those pieces where, this is everything that I miss. So I'm going to keep doing those pieces of everything that I miss until we're all kind of back there. So.
And it's going to take a while to study it, so I'm super excited because you have to get close to this one. And it's
there's
amazing.
A lot. Yeah, there. I packed it, so it should take you. You should get your money's worth out of that one.
There it is on screen.
Yep. Yeah. And so for something like it's large. I mean, obviously, how much do you plan out before you actually start drawing it? Do you do a lot of figuring out where everything's going to go? Yeah. So I basically did like a super rough sketch in my sketchbook. But then after that, I think just planning it out, not even like inking it. I think the planning out took at least like a week. And then the inking it was a little bit faster because like I know where everything is now and I can just kind of go through it. But yeah, just the planning it and making sure everything is where I wanted it to be, that just was killing me, but hopefully it was worth it.
Well, to talk about one of your other exclusives this year, I know we talked about this a little bit privately, but you're one of only about 3 or 4 vendors who's doing something for Loki or Black Widow exclusive for the convention this year. How important do you think it is to have pieces that are timely?
It's hard because, it's a crunch.
Yes.
It's a crunch. But then at the same time, you do know that, the fandoms that people really like, especially with things wrapping up and having those conclusions, people are on that high of just like, oh, I love that so much. And I do too. I finished it, I'm like, oh my gosh. And so some pieces I will, wait to do because they're kind of have that timeless quality to them. They're going to be around forever. But pieces like that, I think it was just so fresh in my head. I didn't want to miss a little beat that I knew was very important to fans like myself. Like, oh, if I'm looking for it, I know they're going to be looking for it, if not more. So I want to make sure to put those things in there. And, for the Loki one, I had something in mind, but then when the because
Gator.
originally I was gonna do when the Gator came out, I'm like, oh, dude, I gotta change it. Because when the Gator came out, I first was just gonna do Mobius in the pizza truck. I was like, oh, that'd be cool. But then the Gator, I'm just like, dude, that's just stole the show, so game over.
Yeah.
So I totally scratched it and I had to redo it. And I was just like, I only have a weekend because I have to release this next week, so I just gotta bust it out. So it's with things like that where it's stressful, but at the same time, it just works better as an artist. And also as a fan, I mean, you just got to push through. You know, it's one of those things where I learned, like, I need to do it this way because it's going to do it justice. And people will appreciate it more. But I also, as an artist, will be like, no, that's actually not just putting stuff out there to put stuff out there, but I enjoyed it. So, yeah.
Well, you killed it.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I was like, oh, okay. And I think I just got lucky with them holding hands because I didn't know that they were gonna be that couple. And I was like, oh my god, okay, this works. I look like a genius, but I'm not. I just got super lucky. Seriously, I'm like, oh my god, yes, cool. It's kind of weird, but it's cool.
Now you just gave away that you didn't even have that much more of a crunch.
Oh man.
It's like, no. But no. So with that Loki print and of course the WandaVision back in the spring. They're exciting because they can have so many different iterations of the characters that you can then recreate. I mean, what's that like, being able to just pull things in and make choice? How do you make the choices of what to do and what you think is going to be something that really pops with people?
Usually it's a lot of times it's like the first idea that I may have. A lot of times I go with it, but sometimes I'll be like, no, that feels a little too expected. That's me being lazy. It's just drawing it just to draw it to get it out. So that's where I'll say, challenge yourself. Like, what else can you do? Because that's just like not going to cut it for me. So the Black Widow one, it was the helicopter, but it was more kind of a standard view. But then I was like, no, that doesn't do like that movie justice of like how much like emotion and action there was in it. And so that's why I changed it. But to go back to the question, because I think I'm totally going off key, is like when I try to approach these things, I try to approach it with a little bit of like that artistic interpretation flavor, still staying true to the source, but trying to give more story to it. There's already a lot there, but my own little story, own little twist. I can't put words on what that is, but hopefully everyone feels it when they see that piece and they're like, oh yeah, that's a fun take on it. And that's usually what I aim for, is staying true to the source material, but there's that little thing that makes people go, oh yeah, that's different. Okay, cool, that's different. All right. So.
Well, I wanted to ask a little bit about your process. I know you've posted from James Coffee before. You seem to do some work there quite often. Do you find it better to work in a public setting like that? Or do you need to be by yourself, focusing, changing things?
It depends on what it is. Like the map, I need to be at my house, just totally no sound, no nothing, because I'm inking that thing. And so I don't want anything bumping me, anything distracting me. But when I'm working on more of the prints or even the mini originals, those are a little bit more where I can work anywhere. And I feel a little bit more of the creative juices coming when I'm hearing people walking around and things like that. I mean, especially after a year of not being able to do that. Very fortunate, very lucky to be able to come back into a space like this and kind of resume that. And I think that's why some of the pieces for me felt a little bit more lively, because I think I wasn't as burnt out and that I was just in a better spot kind of mentally with what I was doing with art and stuff.
Does their coffee play a big role in the process?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Usually
it was great. I had some this morning.
See, right? It just makes you think faster.
It does.
But no, it does. I just sit down. It's just the rituals. Like everyone has their like morning ritual. So for me, a lot of times that artistic ritual is like the coffee from here, because it's almost like it creates that environment. So even during lockdown, I would still drive all the way out here, even though I couldn't sit, get coffee, go home and work. And it gave me that feeling that I was still like in that creative space for myself. So it's like just amped up a little bit more, especially with caffeine. And thanks for waiting in line.
Oh yeah, you bet.
So
And
I
so,
want
well, like you said, oh, sorry, like you said, I was meeting people around me. It was a great experience. I miss it. So
Yeah,
I saw
that
the
was
people in
fun.
front of
That
me.
was
I saw
fun.
them downtown a few moments, like an hour later, they were downtown by the blood drive. So it was cool.
That's cool.
So I wanted to ask, do you have a favorite piece from what you've created for Comic-Con this year?
It's always hard. I'm trying to think. I actually enjoyed the Black Widow one a lot. That one was really fun for me, just because I wasn't sure how I was going to pull that angle off. Because I sketched it out, I'm like, I am so stupid. This is like the hardest perspective that I could ever think of doing. It's like, what the hell am I doing? And honestly, I think I just got lucky. I'm like, that kind of looks right. That kind of looks right. Oh yeah, it's believable. Cool. But I think just pulling that off, and I'm always trying to find ways to make these wonders a little different without taking away from, what they were meant to be, how they started.
Right.
But changing these subtle angles doesn't feel like it takes away, but I feel like I'm able to just add a little fresh flavor to it, especially for those collectors that have been collecting them over the years. I want to do something fresh and new for them that makes it fun and still collecting these things. So yeah, that's the one I would say. And then the map. I'm not saying the map wasn't fun, but it was tiring.
It looks like a lot of work, yeah.
Oh
but it's
my gosh.
gorgeous.
Thank you.
So,
yeah, that was fun.
Being a fan of a bunch of things yourself, was there anything you saw announced for Comic-Con this year that you were personally excited about, whether it be art, toys, anything like that? Or were you buried in your work?
I was
looked up.
Yeah, no, I was part buried. There was like so much stuff, but I think the one that did kind of that stood out, and it sold out really quickly, was the Monkey Minion press one. The poster they did.
That was a nice print. Yeah,
that was very cool. And I saw that, I'm like, oh, you did 50? That's going, man. I
know.
I already know, like, oh, you're gone. That's done. People are gonna be mad at you. They're gonna be mad at you. But I give more. Yeah, and then I think yesterday's pins with the I still miss, so smart, and I love that stuff. It's just cool. It just you do miss it, but it's not like it makes you feel bad or anything. So it's like, oh yeah, I can't wait, that type of thing.
Absolutely. Do you have any? Are there any like Comic-Con traditions right now that you are really missing? I mean, you have a small dose of Comic-Con there right now, but it's not really the same.
Yeah. I actually really miss interacting with the volunteers that help out with the lines and stuff, because you're just talking to them like, wait, you're a doctor? Wait, you two are lawyers? What? It's just, yes, everyone, is a nerd, but it just catches you off guard. So like, what? You're a police officer? Are you cool? Okay, is everything cool? All right. But I got some volunteers that came through that said, yeah, we helped you last year, or we helped you a couple years ago, and we just wanted to come by and say hi and stuff. And I thought, oh, that's like really cool.
That is really cool.
It's just like, oh my gosh, I totally remember you. Like, this woman was here early, like an hour before things started, and she was like, oh yeah, I was usually volunteer with me and my daughter, and last year was the first year we did it, and we had you. We didn't know that there was going to be that line, so it was really fun. I'm like, that's cool. And then they came out to the pop-up. And so, I mean, that's stuff you don't expect. And I think when it does happen like that, those are the things like where people talk about, oh, we miss Comic-Con because of because of that stuff. Like there's a lot of things that you're like, oh, I don't miss that. But I think stuff like that outweighs all the things that you could have done without, that type of thing.
Absolutely. And I love that you always post a photo every year of you with your 20 line volunteer people. So that's always fun. We had a reader question who asked, when will you be revealing the mini originals that go up tomorrow?
I actually have to finish some tonight, so that I'm trying to get at least a total of 30 done. I was hoping to do more, but everything creeped up on me. If anything, I'm going to post it like early in the morning tomorrow before I teach, because I teach at 9. So I'm thinking on Instagram stories or on Twitter, I'll try to post an image of what I have at like 8:30 or 8:45, and then they go live at 11. So good luck, because I know, I think I found out there's some people that do use bots for a lot of these things. I'm like, dude, man.
Yeah. I'm always so amazed just at your output level. Like, I mean, I feel like you just constantly create? How do you find inspiration?
Well, I have a lot of ideas. Like there's a lot of things. I'm already thinking about next year, or I'm thinking about November, but I'm thinking about next year. I'm trying to enjoy what's happening right now. But when the ideas come, I just jot them down and I'll be like, oh, yeah, that'll be kind of fun. So I have like 3 or 4 big prints that I already have in mind for like if SDCC light happens, and then next year when everyone's coming back. So it's just having them in my head, and just, I think I told you this last year. Every year after I do like my big exclusive, in my head I'm like, all right, how am I gonna top that? So it's really dumb because I shoot myself in the foot. Like the Hall H one, that was like oh my gosh, okay, that was a lot because there was a lot happening. This one, I was like, oh my gosh, this took twice as long. So if I'm trying to one up that, I have no idea what's gonna happen, but that's my mentality. It's like I gotta up it each time.
Well, you always find a way.
Yeah, you're basically gonna at some point you're gonna have to start drawing during this year's Comic-Con for next year's big print.
Oh yeah, I think I already am. In my head, I'm planning it out right now. Like just like, hey, 2022, what am I gonna do?
That's awesome. All right. Well, unfortunately, I think that's about all the time we have. But why don't you tell everyone where they can find you online and where they can still buy several of your exclusives?
So you can find me Patrick Ballesteros. That's just my first and last name on Instagram, everywhere else. Twitter, my name was too long, so it's Patrick Ballast. It ends with a T, like Ballast Point beer, whatever. Sorry, plug. And then my online shop, patrickballesterosart.com. I still have stuff. Mini originals tomorrow, and I might be releasing a Canvas exclusive special of the map.
You should.
So yeah, that might be going up there tomorrow. Just might. I want to reveal that on here as a special little treat for all your cool people that listen and give cool comments.
Yes, well, we appreciate it. All right, well, we're gonna let you get back to your pop-up shop, but thank you so much for joining us today, Patrick.
Hugs. I'm giving all of you hugs in person for you next time, Carrie, and everyone else, and James, and I gave a hug to everyone else. Never mind.
All right.
Next
bye,
year
Patrick.
or later.
Bye.
Yes. Or November. Yeah. Bye.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
All right. And coming up next, we have Julie and Shawna Benson, who are writers of fan favorite TV shows like The 100, as well as comics like Batgirl and The Birds of Prey, and also co-producers on the upcoming Star Trek Prodigy series.
Okay, hang on. We did it. Oh my God.
Good job.
Woo!
Welcome.
The panel. We got our bags.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta turn off the background. It's not gonna work, but it was worth the shot anyway. Hang on. Hang on. Okay. No background. There we go.
There we go.
Okay. So, whew, we made it to the panel, you guys.
Hi. Welcome.
People.
Okay. Yeah. Put that over.
Nope.
Yeah,
I got my badge, my lanyard, but it's actually my oh, well, it's my vaccination card. Does that work? I don't know. And then I've got my fan because it's 100 degrees outside. We're doing the whole thing, you guys. We're going full in.
Yeah.
Love it.
We are at Comic-Con.
We are at Comic-Con. That's right. It's happening right now.
Yep. No one can convince me otherwise.
Yeah.
I am there. Julie and I are just taking a break from, being out in the hustle and bustle.
The world.
Yeah.
How are you guys? We've been watching everyone's panels. They're so amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah, we're good. Kim, I think, is incredibly excited about Star Trek Prodigy in particular.
No, your background was great but your shorts are great. We are so excited for Prodigy, especially since we saw the trailer yesterday during the panel. Had you seen it before?
No.
Oh,
we had not. It was exciting.
It was an exciting surprise for us too.
I got tingles, so hopefully people did. Trekkies watching. What did you think of it, or
well, we were just breathless. I mean, we had seen some animatics last year, I think, sometime. So this was the first time that we were seeing like finished animation. And obviously there's some more work to be, like they're still doing more work. So we got the taste of it at least. And I mean, we're just so excited and proud and happy that people are finally going to get to see this, because it's something that we worked on more than a year ago, and we love it, and we think it is true to the, to the Trek, family. Like, it belongs in the Trek family. It's part of what people think of when they think of Star Trek. It's optimistic. It talks about, the Federation and Starfleet in ways that it's going to be an introduction to people, right? And to kids who don't know anything about Star Trek, and adults that don't know anything about Star Trek. This is a great place to jump on into the canon of the Star Trek universe.
I've always sort of talked about it like the Pixar model of, like, you can go in as an adult and enjoy the animated movie. You can enjoy this show as much as the kids are going to enjoy it. We don't talk down to the children. We don't talk down to anyone. We elevate them the way that we were elevated whenever we watched the original series or Next Gen, and Shawna would record them off. I'm gonna sort of date us, but Shawna would record Next Gen off TV on her VHSs, and then write the little time codes on the labels on the sides and the episode titles. So we are there. We are with you. I guess our one request is for fans to understand that we 100% know the feeling of, like, oh, am I going to be hurt by this? Is this going to, not be true to canon, or is this just going to make me upset or sad or whatever? And I beg everyone to give this such a good chance, because we put so much love and Easter eggs and fun stuff in this show. We're thrilled to see the final result, but, like, it is so true to Trek. I think everyone, from your dad who watched the original series to, your kid who's never seen anything, I think they're all gonna love it. I hope. I know I will.
So with this new show, mostly new characters, what can you tell us a little bit about writing for characters that we haven't seen before in the Trek world, and where Starfleet maybe isn't the main character or the main part of the universe?
Yeah, we can't talk much about the series, but we can talk about the experience. I mean, everything you saw yesterday was already so much. I think people are already doing screenshots and breaking down everything, seeing the ship title and all that good stuff. But writing the characters for us was really exciting, because the Hageman brothers, who created the series and wrote the pilot, they already had built this world for us to come into, and had a really good core group of characters created. So for us, it was easier to come in and say, okay, you already have a voice for these characters, for these kids, and being able to introduce them to the Star Trek universe as well as the audience was the fun part of putting that in our brain pan, right? Like, we're not writing Wesley Crusher, who already is in Starfleet Academy and working and well aware of the universe. These are kids who, the first time they're being introduced to this is through that amazing ship. Yes, so worried to say anything we're not supposed to say.
I think
so hard.
I think we're safe to say that, yes, you treat it like these are characters who have lived in the world, but don't really know the world that they live in. Yes. Because we can say that this takes place in the Delta Quadrant. Okay. That has been said. So, that is something we can at least establish. And that, for, Trek fans, means there's some really interesting ramifications of it taking place in the Delta Quadrant, as opposed to where all of the action has been in a lot of the major series in the past, right? Which is the Alpha Quadrant, and maybe a little bit in the Beta Quadrant, or the Gamma Quadrant if you're talking about DS9. So yeah, there's some fun and interesting twists to working on characters, some of whom are established in the Star Trek canon as races that we know
like
of.
a Tellarite, right? Like, everybody knows a Tellarite. So that was fun to just pick up the sort of, okay, we know they argue a lot, and we know they're going to be just contradictory.
But it was also interesting to know that, like, some of those races, those characters, haven't been really talked about much or fleshed out a lot.
Yeah, like, wasn't the Brakar only in book canon?
They were. That Peter David created the Brakar in Worf's First Adventure. So that was a species that the Hageman brothers felt would be really great for the series. So they brought that into canon. And then like the Medusans, we only saw them in TOS and at what price, for what price beauty, I think it is. It's close to that. I know I'm close on the title. But in any case, we know very little about the Medusans. So the fun for us was to go, okay, well, what we know of them, how do we extrapolate from that? How do we build on that mythology, on that canon to breathe more life into a character that is now going to be, for all intents and purposes, walking and talking, even though our Medusan is in a containment suit. So anybody who thought it was a robot, surprise, kind of right, but not.
Kind of right, but not. And it was really fun to see the actors talking yesterday on that panel about their characters, because we lived with them for so long. So it was fun to see them kind of embracing their character and really getting into the heart of them. And it was like, oh, yay, we're in such good hands. Yeah. They're so smart and clever about each of their voices. And I think what was fun about writing Prodigy characters is that, is this the first time that we have an all creature, for lack of a better word,
alien cast?
Alien cast.
There are no humans unless you count a hologram.
Yeah, so
there are no humans in our main cast.
So that was really fun to be able to play in that sandbox that you don't get to do in live action as well, right? We didn't have to worry about the prosthetics, so we can make all of the creatures that you know they run into just really interesting.
You had to think a lot harder about your references, though. Like we actually had a lot of conversations of, but they say this? They're not from Earth. They have no reference point for the things, you know, they have the standard language, which, you know, but they don't really have the same experiences that we would have as people.
So we really had to think out of the box. It's a lot like writing comic books.
Well, we, speaking of holographic Janeway, we are excited for her return. She was wonderful on the panel yesterday too, and made me just excited to show it, just like you are making me excited to show this to my kids. They've seen teeny bits of Next Generation, but I think this will get them into the lore and into that universe, and I can't wait. So a bit of, if we're in the Delta Quadrant, a bit of Voyager rewatching and excited for her return. I don't know what you can talk about.
I would say now's your time, because we don't know when the series will actually premiere. We were told later this year, but I would start now into going back and rewatching everything you can, because we sure did, and it will help you gear up and get ready for the series.
I can say that there are references from pretty much every Trek iteration.
Yes.
Every Trek iteration that has been broadcast, certainly. There is some kind of reference to something in the show. And that was because you had fans writing, you know, we had some non-fans, which was great because we had people to kind of bounce things off of.
The writer's room was great.
Basic story, but you know, we were fans, and we had, you know, other people in the room were fans. Aaron Rocky was a huge fan, and we would have arguments about warp drive and things like that. So it was a lot of fun to do that. But at the same time, I liked what Dan said on the panel yesterday. You always have to approach the story from the place of heart.
Yeah.
Right. So the characters and their relationships is always going to be key, no matter what kind of Star Trek you're writing. And this one in particular, you know, where you're talking about kids and trying to sort of relate to kids as an audience as well as adults.
Yeah, but Holo Janeway, oh my gosh, it's going to be so great.
We're just,
when we were writing it, it was that feeling of like, I can't believe we're getting to write this, but we're gonna do it. And you know, coffee in the nebula, right?
Yeah.
Like we really went for it, and we were so thrilled when she came on board. Especially everybody was, but especially the female writers on the show. There were quite a few of us, and I looked around the room, and including at the time our writer's assistant, and we all came from a place where we loved Star Trek, and that was one of the reasons we were writing sci-fi and genre. So it was really important for us to make sure that she also knew what a big impact she had on the women on the show, and how, you know, previous iterations of the show only maybe would have one or two female writers or freelance every now and again. So we were really happy that I think Discovery has plenty of female writers and moving forward now, but we were really happy that we had a strong base there in that room.
4 of us, 4 women, and I forgot how many guys were in the room now.
2, 4,
3,
5.
4, 5.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're pretty close.
Yeah, 4 and 5. So we were
Awesome.
almost, it was great. And our writer's assistant who was in the room female. So
Yes.
really an even split.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I want to change gears a little bit and let's talk about San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
When was the first time that you two actually went to the convention?
I went in 2004 or 2005. It's a little blurry. And I can say I have been every year up until 2020.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things too, where of course, as Comic-Con got more popular and things just kind of
Saw the
metastasized outside the convention center and sprawled throughout San Diego, we kept going, oh, this is so big. Can we really keep coming to this? And then we couldn't not come.
Yeah, it's what you do in July. You go to Comic-Con for 3 days and you sweat in San Diego and you get a bunch of stuff. 4 days.
Yeah.
Sweat a bunch of stuff. And
Yeah.
Get a bunch of stuff.
You know, you brave the hotel apocalypse and you hope for the
I
best.
don't miss that.
And
that was like getting the vaccination this year. That's how I felt like the hotel apocalypse was just trying to find a vaccination slot. Just trying to find a hotel room.
For sure. I think it definitely became, I've experienced Comic-Con, you know, first as a guest, you know, like, or, you know, a fan going to the con. I then was a press person for a period of a few years. And then now we go as pros. And I would say there's no, professionals.
I know.
So to speak. I mean, we're still
I don't
fans,
feel like a professional.
You know?
Yeah, I feel like a fan.
Yeah. I mean, I think we spend more of our time engaging with that con and experiencing it as fans rather than as comic book writers or TV writers. Or
my favorite thing to do would be like go to the floor and walk Artist Alley, right? Backwards and forwards and talk to everybody and buy pieces and then haul myself over to the other side of the exhibit floor and go through the long boxes and pull out all those issues that I remembered to write down that I was missing. And
back issues.
So most of the time we were doing stuff like that or hanging out with friends and Wired Lounge and all those fun things. I might go just have like rosé in my backyard and play really loud music and sweat just so I feel like I'm at a Comic-Con party or something. But we miss it. We miss seeing you guys. We miss seeing everybody there, right?
Yeah.
You don't know what you got till it's gone. Because we all, every year, right? We're all like, ugh, all right. Everyone, you know, we've had the same jokes. Everyone wear deodorant. Everybody, come on. Like, let's all have a good time. Make sure you have the right weapon. Don't have a weapon in the Hall H. And then you show up and then immediately you have the amnesia of remembering how wonderful it is. And
like, can we go do all the things?
Yeah. So we miss it.
Accurate. Yes.
We all miss it, but hopefully we'll be back soon. And I love like how much of just fans you guys are of all of it and how you attended for years before you were professionals. What was it like the first year that you did get to attend like as a professional?
So weird.
It was surreal.
It was very surreal.
I mean, we went as pros right around the time that we were working on the 100.
Yeah.
So, but I would say that really in 2016 was the watershed for us because that's when we were doing Batgirl and the Birds of Prey. And that's really when we had the experiences because as a writer on a TV show, if you're not the showrunner, you know, you're there and you're
sitting in the panel and watching it and getting excited, but you're not.
But you know, when we had a book and our book had come out 2 days before Comic-Con.
Oh, that's right.
And so almost no one had the book for us to sign.
Right, we're sitting at the DC booth and they were ready for us to sign, you know, books and people were coming up to us being like, well, can I have a book? We're like, I don't know. Go to that booth over there. It just came out 2 days ago. No one left us any books for you to sign.
Yeah.
But it was so great. It was still so fun.
That year was a lot of fun. We were on a panel with Kevin Smith doing trivia, which was bizarre, but also awesome. Our friend Mark Bernardin was on that panel.
That's right.
And then we also were on DC panels. And so that was our first experience being in being on the stage in the huge ballrooms essentially. And you're like, this is
and that was
crazy.
Nothing. I was more nervous being behind stage because I was getting to meet some of my heroes, right? You're getting to talk to Sienkiewicz or you're getting to talk to, and everybody,
Tom King,
everybody. And you're just like geeking out to them about their issues. And Jason Aaron, I think I cornered him at some place and I was like, remember when in this book and you did that? I can't remember what I was going on about, but
it's crazy.
Having those moments where you just unabashedly get to be a fan again was really, really fun. I do miss that.
Yeah. And I miss meeting fans. I miss that experience
Fellow
of being
fans,
a professional and meeting the fans that are there. You know, I'm always amazed when anyone shows up to our signings or, you know, like gives us the time of day or recognizes us. You know, it's like, how, why, you know, but it's an honor. Like every time I'm always like on the verge of tears.
Aww.
Because it is just like, oh my gosh.
I think when we got back to the hotel room in 2016, after all of the Batgirl and the Birds of Prey stuff, we did cry because we were just like, wow, we're on the other side of things and it's still awesome. Like that was the good part, is that we weren't thrown into a lion's den. It's like, haha, careful what you wish for. It was like, no, it's great on both sides. So yeah, it was fun.
So it basically sounds like you guys do Comic-Con right.
Yes. We do Comic-Con right. I will say that is one of the things that we're pretty proud of, is that we plan ahead. We try. I think the one thing I miss is the thing that we got to stop doing this, friends. Whenever we text each other, we're like, where are you at? And you're like, I might as well be on Mars, because by the time you get to wherever it is I am not going to be there anymore. You know, I have now moved on to the Bayfront. I'm at the bar, or I'm over here waiting for a Lego. I don't know what I'm doing, but like, that gives me such anxiety when everyone's like, let's meet up. It's like, no, please plan ahead with me, because I'm just going to go. I'm going to be everywhere, and good luck finding me.
We're going to have dinner at this day, this time. You can come there. We'll do that meetup.
Right.
But yeah, the impromptu meetups are hard.
It's anxiety inducing. And then you feel bad because you didn't see everybody.
Of course, never.
You can never see everyone you want to see at Comic-Con.
No. Yeah.
You mentioned that was the year with your comic, Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, and you also did some issues for Green Arrow. How did your relationship with DC Comics come about?
Well, I was a huge comics fan. I grew up with my dad's comics, his Silver Age. And so when I got on Twitter, one of the things I discovered was like, oh, I can go follow all these creators, right? I can follow all the artists and all the writers and just sort of watch what they're talking about and get, be on the other side of things. And Jeff Jones was one of them. And we talked, and after talking for a little bit, he was like, well, why aren't you guys writing a book? Because he was kind of, I guess, blown away by how much I knew about the world. And so we came in and we pitched, he had us come into DC and pitch some ideas. Or so we thought. We had about 10 ideas ready, because once somebody says, come pitch us something, oh my gosh, okay. Then you're like, okay, so like a Vandal Savage series, and we just go nuts with like
Psycho Pirate.
Like we had a whole Psycho Pirate run where it was like his mask was still around and it remembered everything from Crisis. Like we had all these ideas.
That got done somewhere.
Did it get done somewhere?
Kind of.
Oh man. Yeah. Anyway, so we had all these ideas, and then we came in and he's like, actually, we're gonna pitch you guys something. If you hear tapping, by the way, it's my dog tapping at the door because there's a cat outside. Fine. He wants to say hi to it. So they pitched us Birds of Prey, and we said we have heard of it. Yes, very aware of that series. And
read the Gail Simone runs, and then before that, Chuck Dixon runs.
Yeah,
and all the ones in between. Really, we caught up on everything.
Yeah. Once
we were given that, we pitched a story that along the lines of what they were asking for. They liked our take. And then we were off to the races.
And races it was, because we were working, our day job, we called it, was being in the room on the 100. And then everybody would say goodnight for the night. We'd go into our office, shut the door, and our vigilante night job was writing those issues, because that train doesn't stop once you're on it. It was a lot. Yeah. I don't remember a lot of 2016 and 17 because we were just busy working.
Yeah.
So I look at Shawna a lot to go, who did we meet? Where did we go?
It was like 2.5 years of on a treadmill. And it was great, and I would not trade it for anything, but it was a lot of work. And we'd started during our hiatus, and we didn't know, I think, exactly just what we were getting ourselves into when we, started. We kept doing it while we were doing the TV work. But again,
I wouldn't give it up for anything.
It was great, and I loved it, and
they were good to us. Yeah.
So along that same line, for a TV show like The 100, you're obviously part of a writer's room where you're writing with a lot of other people. But for Batgirl and the Birds of Prey, it was just you, the two of you. You were the sole writers. Did you find one of those processes more challenging or more rewarding in some way?
Totally different animals, right? It's the same thing as the question we get now for animation. It's like it's a totally different muscle that you're working. It's still writing, but it's a different, as I said, muscle. And so for the 100, it's so collaborative, and that feeling of like the group think that happens in a room where one person has an idea and then you say yes and then it goes around and everybody, now we have an episode on the board and you're so excited. Yeah. And then Shawna and I would go in a room and we're like, I wish we kind of had a few more yes ands because that'd be a lot easier.
It'd be a lot easier to break this
than
story.
just us having to do
A
it.
room of two.
Wait a minute.
But we did have collaborators in that. We had our editors.
That's right.
We had the artists.
Yes.
And you know, they would come up with things that we could never have imagined when we wrote things on the page. They would write, you know, they would create art for that we were just like, oh my gosh, that's so great that they did that way. We never imagined it.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a different. The things that are the same is that, you know, it was definitely like the train doesn't stop moving. So, you know, and when you're doing like network TV, you're like writing scripts while the show is being produced. And so you're just like constantly going. And that was the thing with comics, you know, you always had an issue you were writing, an issue that was being edited, another issue that was being drawn, another issue that was going to press or in, you know, proofs. So, I mean, it was just like, you know, you always had like multiple issues going. And then when you got to animation, the thing that we discovered, of course, was that we didn't see anything. The production didn't start until we were done.
Long gone.
We'd started to see some concept art and some things right toward the end of when we were there on Prodigy. But, and I think a lot of live action had this experience during the pandemic when they couldn't produce their shows, but they certainly could run their writers' rooms.
You're writing in a bit of a bubble.
Yeah.
And that was the same thing as comics, right? You're always writing the script and you're imagining what it's going to look like and you have no idea. And then you get the art in and you're like, whoa, this is better than I could have even written or imagined. And yeah, it was really fun to collaborate with them. So asking our artists right at the jump, like, what do you hate drawing? What do you love drawing? What has no one asked you to do? You know, trying to collaborate that way. We brought a lot of the 100-room technique with us.
Yeah, we learned to write bigger when we got to comics. And then, you know, animation is a little similar in that way, where there are a lot of things we can do, like the alien races, you know, no prosthetics. We can make them look however we want
Lots
in
of
animation.
fun planets.
So yeah,
it can look like anything.
Yeah.
And then, that was one of the biggest things we had to retrain ourselves, because in network TV, you're budget, right?
What can we afford? What can we get? What are the VFX? You know, all that thing. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask along the same lines about your creative process, continuing the train of thought. Do you like working home? I know we were stuck at home for a while, or do you like being out and about? I asked Patrick this in the last segment. Is it helpful having people around you? And then also talk about how your collaboration together. How do you work together and write together?
Well, I love, that's a lot.
I saw that one.
No, it's great.
We put gloves on and we fight it out. Yes, we've had to work from home. Shawna and I lived together for a very long time. And in the pandemic, I found my own place. And so in January, I moved into my own place. So we now live in the same building, but different condos. So
she lives downstairs and on the other side of the building.
It's kind of a sitcom waiting to happen.
Yeah.
But so we spent a lot of time kind of going up and down into each other's places and having our little break sessions and going off into our corners and writing. And so we break everything, just no matter what show we're on, what we're writing, what medium, we break everything together. We have a really tight outline. And if there's like some, I don't know how this is going to work, but you'll come up with it moments, those are definitely in there. And then we split it up, like, okay, I'll write teaser act 1, you go do 2 and 3, and blah, blah, blah. And then we swap back and forth until we both have kind of put our fingerprints all over it. And hopefully by the time you read it, it reads like one voice. So,
yeah. I mean, our voices, I think, are fairly similar anyway, because we're siblings, we grew up together, we have the same life experiences, we're approximately around the same age.
We're both 22.
Yes. And
we'll
not
just make up a number.
That sounds fine to me.
I don't even care anymore.
Sure. But in any case, yes, I like the process of being in a room with a lot of people. I love that collaboration. It's really energizing, but I have seen where there are benefits to working from home and being on Zoom. And, you know, I'm really excited about that going forward, because I think it's going to be so helpful to, you know, women who have had children, or any parents, you know, even paternity leave, you know, that you could work from home.
Disability advocacy.
Yeah.
Like, it's something that
someone who doesn't live in LA, they can live anywhere, and you could still.
Can you imagine if you're still living in Illinois and somebody was like, hey, you could write on this show and you just have to zoom in?
What? I don't have to live in Los Angeles and deal with the traffic?
My head would explode.
Yeah. So I think that ideally, I think would be great to have a little bit of both, where you could meet in a room for a short period of time and do like the blue sky of the show, and this is, we all come together on, basics building blocks, and then we can go into the virtual environment and, either come together in a single group or break into smaller groups to work on things. Like that to me, I think would be ideal.
So let's do that.
Okay, done.
So I think we're getting close to the end of our time, but before we go, Shawna, our editor-in-chief, Carrie, she sometimes likes to have a bit of wine during the badge sale live podcasts. Which wine do you think pairs well with a super stressful badge buying live stream?
Wow. Okay. So,
this is a great question.
Yeah.
I love that I don't have to answer it. I can be like,
there's some high stress involved, right?
Yes.
I mean, I think that when you're in
heavy or you something
no,
lighter?
I think you got to go light when you got like that amount of stress happening.
Right.
But you want something that has a little bit of robustness to it. You want some flavor. I mean, you could go with like a California Chardonnay. I prefer, ones that have been aged in steel versus wood, because I'm not as fond of the oak textures in Chardonnay, but I do love steel and crispness, which is why I prefer Sauvignon Blanc or Pinot Grigio. But you know what? Really, you can't go wrong with a rosé. And rosés are like the hottest summer beverage. We call it. There's literally one called summer water, and
that's
it's
a good one.
It's refreshing.
So a rosé. Let's say a rosé.
I would say a rosé is the way to go.
All right. Well, everyone listening, there you go. There's your drink for the next badge sale. Get a rosé. All right. Well, unfortunately, I think we are out of time. But thanks you
guys.
Yes, thank you both so much for joining us. And before you go, tell our listeners where they can find you.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we're on Twitter. I am at Shawna Benson.
You know my handles.
She is at the Julie Benson.
I am. Okay, yes, that's
we're
right.
both on Instagram. There, I'm actually Shawna M Benson because somebody stole my name.
How dare they?
And
I'm Julie Benson on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then we have the Benson Sisters website,
also Instagram account and Twitter account. Benson
which we need to get
Sisters,
better at updating. But yes.
Yeah. You can find us in all those
more to
things.
come. We have
Facebook page, Benson Sisters.
Thing we're working on with the Jim Henson Company. So, we've got all sorts of irons in the fire.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
Awesome. Well, we are so excited for Star Trek Prodigy, and we hope that we get to see you and everyone else again soon.
Same. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Happy Comic-Con.
Thank you so much. All right, so coming up next, and the last guest for the day, we have Todd of Toddland, maker of rad stuff, which includes the annual fan favorite designs from American Dad, Family Guy, and Bob's Burgers. Welcome.
Howdy, guys. How are you?
Doing great.
Are you in your office?
I am.
I love it.
I was gonna say, yeah, you can tell all the craziness and all the fun stuff behind me. Yep, and I've got all of my. Can I flip it around? First time on Zoom. Yeah, there's all my old badges too, and my Price is Right name tag, and my Goonies stuff, and yeah, it's it's a little wacky in here, but it's my little cave.
We love it. Well, thank you for going into the office on a Saturday for us.
Yeah, no worries. I tried to go down to San Diego, but plans this week are a little crazy. So
yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. It's still great.
All right. I wanted to start us off. You always make such timely designs for the con that play into both the world that the actual characters inhabit, but also bringing in our love for the convention. What was the thought process behind this year's designs?
So we did the pandemic last year, or tried to joke around about the pandemic last year, and we were really sick of the pandemic. So we wanted to try to do something like a nod to it this year, but not make it a bummer. So we figured whatever we were bummed on is what the characters would be bummed on. So obviously, the Belcher family, if you saw the graphic this year, they all went down there and the hall's closed. The hall's locked up. They can't get in. So Louise is trying to break in and Jean's trying to get the door open.
I purchased that shirt.
Yeah, and thank you. And then
that was
it's a good, because that's the whole I want to break into the con, we all do it. And it's hey, we'll see you next year. That's all great. And you're no, I want to go this year. I'm mad about this year. And then for Family Guy, we looked at it from Stewie's standpoint of what would Stewie do? Well, Stewie would be I'm not putting up with this shit. So he just Brian, come on, we're going to Comic-Con next year. So they just skipped ahead to 2022, which we thought was perfect. And then with American Dad, we addressed it with them too, with the newspaper gag. because they always run like kind of a dry, very blunt headline on the newspaper that they used to run. So this one was new normal, doesn't feel normal. And that's kind of how we feel about everything. Like, oh, this is the new normal. You're like, yeah, no, this isn't normal. This is still weird. We want con to happen. Like, we want to just fast forward to next year. So we pretty much just treat the characters like they're real, and they'd have the same emotions we would. So
love it. Well, also this year and every year, really, you always throw in some deep cuts from the shows that fans love. How do you decide even like what designs like you're going to make into an exclusive?
So we have a list going. We keep a list on Excel because all businesses run on Excel and from IKEA furniture. But everything stays in Excel, and we just have a list of everything that's like, okay, here's the stuff we have to have every season. Here's the stuff we love. And then, oh my God, nobody will get this. And then we always try to pick one of those nobody will get this thing, but like our fans get it. So that's always the best part. And we also know like from the writers and stuff for the show and like the cast and the talent, like what, oh my God, yeah, that's the thing they have to have because everybody loves that. So this year it was the Pickles shirt, which is the all male strip club in Bob's Burgers. So everybody's like, what we do 2 years ago or last year, it was Ken. It was Gene's albino imaginary friend. And then the Madness Castle shirt, which we absolutely aren't going to sell any of. And now we're on like the 6th printing of them. But this is it. Just because we're sick of running them. Like if you haven't gotten it by now, like we're sick of making it. Like we love it, but it's one roadside attraction in one episode of Bob's, and we've probably sold 1,000 of them. Because that's what the fans like. Like they like to share their fandom of like you walk by somebody with a Madness Castle shirt on the street and they have no clue. But Bob's fans like, oh my God, like they get excited about that. Or you walk by a shirt with Pickles with like a naked firefighter on it with his hose out. And you're like, what? I don't get that. But the Bob's fans are like, well, of course, it's Rescue 911 buns. They get it. So we always try to do something that we get the joke of, but we know all the fans get it too. It's not something you're going to see on the shelf at Hot Topic. Like I don't think Target's going to put out Pickles shirts anytime soon. And that kind of is what makes it fun for us.
So you also do your Burger of the Day pins and T-shirts, and you've done plenty of them over the years. Do you have any that is your favorite?
The SoCal distancing one was really good last year. Just because it worked on every level. It was the social distancing and it was the SoCal distancing because we're in Southern California and Comic-Con's in Southern California and everybody's distance from SoCal. Like it just worked on like every pun level. And then I think it was served with 2 avocados 6 feet away from each other, or like it was order it from way over there. Like we did a couple of those fun pun ones. But they're getting hard to do because we've done so many that now we're getting a little better with trying to stay topical on them. Like this year's was the Until We Can't Meet Up Again, which we tried playing around with the SDCCU burger next year, but it doesn't really work. Like that was like an alternate for this year. But yeah, I think the SoCal distancing one is one of our favorites. And we absolutely adore the Pride one this year. Like the Pride one this year was it was the Born This Way one. What was it? I forget. It's sitting over here somewhere. But the Pride one we did this year. Oh, you know what? I can look it up really quick online. But we thought the Pride one this year was super clever. The Baby I Was Corn This Way burger. Because it's a Pride pin, it was born this way. It's a Lady Gaga reference. Like that community loves that. It was perfect. So I think the Pride one and the SoCal distancing one have probably been our 2 favorites.
So we have you on every year and we adore you, but let's talk a little bit about you and the creation of Toddland. How did you get involved in this whole crazy world of?
Well, it just so happened my name's Todd and it worked. I was like, hey, there's a company called Toddland. Perfect. Without getting into the story too long, I went to college at Michigan State. I have an advertising degree. I was built to be a creative director, which perfect because that's what I ended up doing. And I was working there, and then I was going to school there, graduated, got a job at Abercrombie and Fitch in Ohio, their home office, doing all of the khaki cargo shorts that every frat boy in the world wears in the 90s. That was me. So I didn't make those.
Totally on brand for you.
Completely on brand. Like when you walk into Abercrombie, if you don't think this, you're totally blowing it. So I worked there for like 4 years in Columbus, Ohio. And if you're going to do any kind of product development or merchandising or anything like that, if you want an MBA, you go to work. If you want to know how to do product development, you go to Abercrombie and Fitch, because it's basically death by fire. Like you're 22 in the front yard of your fraternity house, and the next day you're like, all right, cool. You're going to spend the next 9 months out of the country, and here's a $20 million apartment. Figure it out. And you're like, oh, okay. So it was a little intense, really, really rough job, but you don't know how things work when you're 22. Like you don't know that 80 hours a week isn't normal. You don't realize that going in at 9 o'clock that you're going to Sri Lanka at 10 o'clock isn't a normal working environment. So they've toned things down since then. But from there, I got recruited out to work at a company called Modern Amusement up in Santa Monica. So it was, hey, do you want to leave a cornfield in Ohio and move to Santa Monica, California? So it wasn't really a hard question. So I moved out here, and then a little company called Paul Frank with the Monkey and Julius and that whole company. They recruited me from Santa Monica. They're like, come down to Orange County. And they get a hold of me like once a week. And it just took the right day to be like, hey, are you going to come work for us? Yes, I'm going to come work for you because today was terrible. So I worked there for a few years, overseeing men and boys merchant design. And then it switched to like a licensing model. And they were doing more like the Hello Kitty route. They took it to Target and Kohl's and JCPenney's, and I did the men's line. There really wasn't a home for it then. We were selling really well at Urban Outfitters, and Urban was like, hey, come design for us. I'm like, I'm not going to work for you guys. I'm not moving to Philly. And they were like, okay, well, why don't you live out there and then work for us out here? I'm like, yeah, again, no. Why don't I just start my own company and you guys just buy stuff from me? They're like, oh, that's even better. You're not on our payroll. And I'm like, yeah, and I don't report to you. They're like, perfect situation. So that's how Toddland started. So we just basically took everything that was Paul Frank in like holiday of 2008, turned into Toddland in spring of 09. So like all those accounts just switched from Paul Frank to Toddland. So it was kind of like cheating. So like our first year, it was like, okay, you get to do the windows and an entire wall at both Fred Siegel's, and you have the giant table in the front of the store at all 200 Urban Outfitters. Go. So it wasn't like I was sitting there screen printing t-shirts in the garage. It was just like January. It's like, here he is. And it just happened. And then the market changed after a few years there. We were doing, I think, like 22 countries, Amazon, Nordstrom's, Macy's, everybody. And the market changed, and our industry is pretty awful and pretty dirty. And we ended up hiding out in licensing. So we ended up working with, we were really good friends with the Aquabats. And I know they play a Comic-Con show every year, the House of Blues. So we were friends with those guys. They asked us to do their merch. So we did their merch for them. And then they're also the same camp that does Yo Gabba Gabba. So we were doing Yo Gabba Gabba stuff. So we did those two. And then Kid Robot took a shine to us. They were like, hey, you guys do the Gabba stuff and the Bat stuff. You guys are cool. Let's do stuff. I'm like, okay. So we were friends with them. Then we started working with one of their licensees out of Australia, Icon and Pop Culture. They're amazing. And then we were doing some Star Wars stuff with them for a little while. And then we reached out to Adventure Time. And somehow we got in front of Penn Ward. And Penn was like, no, I love those guys. Let them do whatever they want. So basically the show bullied them into making the network work with us. So we did Adventure Time. We did some HR Puffin stuff. And then it evolved from there into Bob's Burgers. And then we got Bob's. So Family Guy wanted to work with us. And then from Family Guy, American Dad wanted to work with us. From American Dad, Robot Chicken wanted to work with us. So that's kind of how we ended up here. From a cornfield in Ohio making cargo shorts. Now we do this. So it's kind of a wacky little road to get to here. But we wouldn't trade it for anything. Like, we love where we're at.
Absolutely.
That's an amazing road. How much do you work with the creatives at Fox and on their different licenses?
It depends. Like, well, usually what we'll do is we have the same process every season. We come up with all of our crazy ideas that we think are funny and that we know won't get approved, and some will get approved. So we always we'll ask for 150, trying to get to 100, knowing that they'll back things down. But it'll be fun stuff. Like, we'll be like, all right, cool. Can we do Prom Night Dumpster Baby as a 2-pack of pins where you get the Prom Night Baby and you get the dumpster? And they're like, absolutely not. We're like, okay, can we do a pickle shirt? Yeah, that's fine. So like, the whole goal was to do the pickle shirt in the first place. It wasn't to do the outrageous thing, but we know we can pull it back to what we want. So ask for something crazy, but then ask for something completely ludicrous. And then the crazy thing doesn't look as bad. So that's always how you negotiate. Like, always do something really nutty and come back with it. But we do everything we do, we submit to the shows, or the shows come to us with. They're like, oh my God, this would be super fun. What about this? We're like, okay, cool. And we'll put it in. Or we'll do something like, oh, add these 2 characters. Like, okay, cool. So like we edit and play with stuff. They send it over to the writer's room. The writer's room will come back to us with stuff. All the producers look at it. But yeah, we take suggestions from them. They take suggestions from us. Because sometimes they'll be like, hey, this happens in this episode. And we'll be like, okay, cool, but that hasn't aired yet. I'm like, oh yeah. Because they're so far ahead that they're a year and a half ahead, that in the storyline of shows, things have happened for them in their reality that haven't happened for us and the civilians yet. So that's what's kind of tricky. Like with some things, like we did the Wild West pin this year, which is the one with the character where Sam Elliott is in it from Family Guy. He's Adam West's brother. He's the new mayor. So we did that. Well, we sat in the table read for that like 2 years ago. And I was like, we need to do this. And you're like, but it doesn't air yet. We can't, like, it just aired this season. So like, we can't release things until they air, and then things get moved around and stuff. So we work really close with the show to make sure we don't have any spoilers, and like, we know where things are coming in at. But this season we tried to do a mix of we tried to put a good mix of old things that people love, perpetual favorite stuff, and then new character stuff, like stuff from the new episodes. So I know for Family Guy, we were really mindful of that. Like we added in Wild West, we added in Hipster Chris and Meg. And then for Bob's, we always try to stay timely with stuff too. So
absolutely. Well,
and then American Dad was almost all new this year too, because like Rogu is the new big deal over there, so it's all Rogu.
Well, let's talk about our favorite topic, San Diego Comic-Con. As if you are a fan of a lot of things, you love a lot of the same things we do. Was there anything that you were really excited about this year that you saw other people or companies doing?
Yesterday's continues to kill it. Like they've got the pin game kind of figured out. I mean, it doesn't hurt that we're really good friends with them. Yes. It makes it easier to get the pins. But they're doing a good job. Like they're nailing it over there. Yeah. Scott C remains stupid and adorable every single time. You just click and buy his stuff because it's cute.
Yeah, I saw you got the Indiana Jones one. Yeah,
it's cute. I can't not have that. Like I have the Muppets one sitting behind my desk. Like it's adorable. I got the Simpsons one and the Death Star, and like I don't need any more of his prints, but every single time I buy them anyways, just because they're cute and they're small and they're adorable. Those are super fun. Some of the Funkos are really fun. I don't think there was anything I really had to have. Like I like the glow in the dark Mr. Burns, but it's a PX one and it's a chase and it's a whole like, and where I'm at right now is like, yeah, anyways, like when they make it too complicated to get, I'm not interested in hunting it down anymore. It's like, yeah, if I want it, I'll pay $40 for it on eBay. I don't think I want it that bad. It's fine. Like, but yeah, that stuff was really cute. Everything Patrick does is delightful and adorable too. Like his stuff's super cute.
We adore Patrick.
Yeah, dude, he's amazing. And everything Martin does too is super nice. Like Martin's a great human being, and he's the best booth neighbor we could ever have. Like every time we set up with like, we're like bulls in a china shop with like 2,500 t-shirts getting loaded in, and there's forklifts, and like we're taping stuff and we're fighting with the union, and the fire marshal screaming at me, and Martin's just over there like placing things on glass shelves, and everything he's got is just beautiful and flawless, and our whole walls are like rattling, and we're like throwing tables behind there. He's the greatest neighbor ever. He's got like these perfect lights on things, and we're just like, we're gonna break everything he has. So like we kind of have somebody just standing back there to just not ruin his booth every time, and he's like the greatest guy ever. Like he's so nice to us. But yeah, but there wasn't there wasn't anything like absolutely, oh my God, I have to have this year. And I think a lot of that too is because we already did this last year. Like it's kind of hard to not be there. Like I know a lot of people we got a lot of requests this year. Like, where's Rupert? And we won't do him if we can't hand him to you in person, because we like that. Like we're not doing a mystery item because I want to hand it to you because I want you to open it in front of me, because that's the fun part for us. Like it's not just selling it to you. Like sure, we care about that, but no, I want you to open it because the magic of it is you don't know what it is. And like they'll hide it between everybody else in line and be like, oh my God, they're super excited. So that's what we're really looking forward to getting back to next year. But I think that's with this year, I think that everybody's a little burned out. Yeah. Because we were ready for it this year. We were ready to go, and we're doing this again. And like we're in Orange County, so we're just south of LA, but they're doing the pandemic again. Like we're doing pandemic 2.0 up here. Like it's great. Like I got to put a mask on to go to 7-Eleven again. Like, no, we already did this. Like we're good. I don't need to rerun on this. Like I've already seen this episode. Like we're good. We did it. That's cool. But they're like, oh yeah, everybody's dying. You're like, I'm sympathetic, but we already did this for the last 18 months and we did what we were supposed to. So it's a little exhausting because we just don't know what the rules are every day. So, and we were excited. We put our masks away and then we brought them all back. So, yeah.
But we are getting some physical conventions coming back slowly, and things are opening back up again, give or take an LA County or two. How optimistic are you about the future of conventions? Are we just going back like gung ho?
I think, yeah. I mean, I think by next year, we're not getting political on anything because a virus absolutely shouldn't be political, but just get a goddamn shot. Like, we all want to just stay in business. We don't want our grandmas to die. I want to fly home and hug my parents. Like, just get a fucking shot so we can do this and we can go back to cons and we don't have to have a parade in the gas lamp of 3 Guardians of the Galaxy walking by themselves. No, I want all 200 cosplayers on the steps again. Like, that can't happen unless we all pull together and do this. So it's like, no, let's get back to normal. Like, we want Star Wars Celebration to happen next year. We want Comic-Con to happen next year. We want Comic-Con in November to happen next year. Yes. Like, and we can do that. Like, it can happen if people just get their shit together. Like, it's literally like, I think you guys have seen that clip from Rick and Morty where Morty's yelling at Summer, where he's like, Summer, get your shit together. Just get your shit together. Take it, put it all in a backpack. I don't care what you do with it. Just get your shit together. Put it in a backpack. Take it to the shit store. Sell it. I don't care what you do with it. Just get your shit together. And that's just what we need everybody to do. Because we're like, I got a new booth to build. We've got people we want to hug. We got people we want to see. Like, there's other licenses that I'm not dropping online that I'm holding till we're in person. Like, I want to give you a Rupert. We're not doing this again for another year. Like, and then the other thing is, like, financially, we can't do this any longer. Like, as small businesses, like, everything thinks it's cute that we're doing this online stuff. Oh no, we're all down a ton.
Oh, absolutely.
And we all barely get by anyways, especially the really small guys. So it's like, no, we need this to happen. Like, that's cute that I'm not doing, fine, whatever. I'm not going to kill anybody's grandma. And I'd like to stay in business. So, like, that's cool. So I think we're going to go back to 100% by next year. I think everything will be pretty wonky still through the end of this year, because I think it's a lot of gray areas. And I think a lot of things aren't. I think what happens is a lot of this stuff has to be scheduled so far in advance that you just can't make plans right now, because is the building going to be available? Is the insurance company going to insure it? What a-hole is going to try to sue us for this? Are people going to volunteer for it? Are workers going to feel safe coming back? Is talent going to feel safe coming back? It's a very tricky thing, because, like, I don't think you want to go to a con and have to take a photo op with somebody for $50 behind plexiglass. That's weird. But will we do it? So I think we're counting on WonderCon being 100% back to normal next year for April. We're not counting on anything normal before that. I think we'll have some hybrid stuff. I think maybe there'll be less people on the floor. We just really don't know until it happens. We're really hopeful for Comic-Con Special Edition in November. We've got a lineup ready for it. I think we're doing all Christmas. So I think we're built ready to go, because we've never done a holiday program for any of the shows. So I think we're going all holiday, and I think we're going to have it ready to go. Hopefully it happens in person. If it doesn't, we're putting it online. So either way, we're planning it. Okay, here's the trigger on when we got to build the booth. Here's the trigger on when the site gets loaded. Either way, it's the exact same plan for us. And I think that's where we're at now with releases, is there's always a plan A and B. Like, if this happens, it's this. If this happens, it's this. We're not bummed either way. It's just, we just need to know what road to go. So, because we'd really love to be back at cons. We really would.
So would we.
Yeah.
As we're gonna say everything's gonna be back to 100% awesome. As we're looking towards that future, what are the traditions that you can't wait to? Traditions at Comic-Con, at San Diego Comic-Con, that you, let's not say the word missing, but you can't wait to get back to? Do you have any that you can think of?
It's hard to, like, pinpoint anything specific. Always being confused at Funko Fun Days is always one of my favorite things. Just, like, sitting there of the shell shock of still never understanding what that is while I'm sitting there. Like, okay, cool. Like, here's Luke Skywalker, and now there's a naked Harley Quinn stripping on a pole, and then here's a wrestler. I don't understand any of this. Like, it's just the greatest, like, indoor Burning Man at Comic-Con experience of, like, and then here's Brian doing a somersault like Willy Wonka. I don't get how this ties together, but it's spectacular because it's so weird that you're like, this is great. But it's really just the whole thing. Like, I think setup always sucks, but it's there's a huge energy to that. And then I get to see all my friends. So like our booth is staffed by like me and our crew, and like all of our friends come in and everybody helps work and stuff. So we see literally 200 of our friends that week, 300 of our friends that week, and all of our other vendor friends. And it's the people that make the whole thing. Like, fighting with the fire marshal sucks, and dealing with load in and load out and forklifts and missing crates and pins that come in on the wrong cards. That's all part of the chaos of what it is. But we really just in general miss the people of the whole thing, because there's just like an energy and a vibe when you're there. Like, I mean, I've said it before that my favorite moment is when they announce the show floor is open. Like, that's my favorite moment of the whole con, because you're done. You're done. If there's a box on fire in the back, it's too late. If you didn't bring the duct tape and you got an intern holding the booth together for 4 hours that night, it's too late. It's happening. Like, you either have it or you don't. And that's like the moment where you're like, all right, here we go. Like, it's like when they blow the whistle for a football game. Like, it's on now. There's no turning back. Like, this is go time. And like for us, we do about 95% of our revenue in that week. So it's make or break. And I'm not a gambler. It's gambling. Like, it's hard to do. But yeah, we miss the people and we miss the energy. I miss $14 pretzels. Is that weird? Like,
no, it's actually not.
I'm like,
We've had several people say that.
Like, I got to go up and I'm like, do you guys have any $14 half stale pretzels and an attitude that I can have? Sure. Do you want an $8 Pepsi? Of course I want an $8 Pepsi. Why wouldn't I? So like, you miss that. You miss paying, like, I think our DoorDash bill was like $271 for like 5 sandwiches one year. Because one of the guys in the booth, like, I'm terrible with food. Like, I get working and don't think about it. So everybody's kind of got delegated things of like, all right, Brad's in charge of lunch. Just handle lunch. And it just handles, and he's got it handled during build. And we got the bill and it was like, wait, we paid how much for sandwiches? Like, well, there's a $40 delivery charge. And then there's this charge. And then you're like, oh my God, like, we'll just go to 7-Eleven next time and get Slurpees. But like, it just is what it is. But
well, speaking of the people, we have a question from one of our readers. Brandon asked, will you be doing anything with the Great North in the future?
We appreciate the opportunity to work with shows like Great North and have a positive outlook in the future towards them. If there's any of the legal team looking forward to that.
Okay.
So, yeah. So yeah, that's the soundbite they can have.
Yep.
But yeah. So like I said, I want to build a new booth next year, and I think the boat from the show would be amazing, or maybe the building with the porch on it would be amazing that we may already have drawn up in blueprints for. So maybe we'll be working with them. Maybe. So we'll see, because there is a Bob's Burgers movie coming out, and the Great North is in the same family, and I think everybody knows that we're best friends with Bento Box and the Bob's Crew and all those guys. So everything. If you guys think something's in our wheelhouse, it's probably in our wheelhouse. There's just probably things we can't do yet. So the plan was to have Great North for Comic-Con this year. It's just, it's still COVID. So like a lot of contracts aren't being renewed, or not renewed, but like being updated, and things are changing, and there's a lot of moving parts right now, and everybody's just, there's that meme of that giant rubber duck, like in Australia. I don't know, or whether you guys seen it. They put them in like the harbors everywhere.
Yep.
And somebody commented, they're like, what the hell is that duck even doing? And then somebody commented, Denise, he's doing his best. Okay. The duck is doing his best. And that's literally where we're all at with things. Like, why don't you guys have Great North? We're doing our best. Like, we're trying. Like, where's our next contract? And that team's like, we're trying. Just settle down. We got a movie to get out. So like, that's what we're working on. So us and the Bob's team are like, can we do it? Can we do it? Can we do it? And everybody's like, just settle down. Hold on. So that's where we're at with Great North right now. Is it'll happen. Just settle down. So we already have it all drawn up. It's ready to go. we're just waiting for legal approval, and then it'll be fun.
Well, hopefully we will get to see all of that and more at Comic-Con and whatever iteration it takes next, whether that's November or next summer. But I think we are probably out of time. So we are going to let you go. Todd, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you and where they can go buy their exclusives this weekend?
Everything is up at toddland.com. We're Toddland Store on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm too old to Snapchat, so I don't know what that is, and I don't know if we have a Tinder profile, but probably don't swipe that. But yeah, everything's on toddland.com. You can go and get the Bob stuff, the Family Guy stuff, the American Dad stuff, and there is still some Pride stuff up right now, and we're shipping that this week. I think most of it's here in the office. I'm looking at some of it, but that's all getting ready to go too. And then most of our shirts all come in an extra small through 4X. Like that's a big deal we do. And if you don't see your size online, email us at store@toddland.com because we can usually get it. Like maybe we can't get you baby blue in a 4X, but maybe we can get you like a royal blue in a 4X. Because to us, it doesn't matter what it is. We just want you to have it as a fan. So that's what we're in the office doing today. I've got like 100 customer service emails. I'm like, can I get this? And our answer is like, yes, but it's not pale yellow. It's yellow. Are you cool with that? So that's what we're doing right now. So we're like Amazon. We're 24 hours a day right now. We're not. I'm leaving at 5, but.
All right. Well, we're going to let you get back to work. Thank you so much for joining us, Todd. We always appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for always having us and helping us out, guys. You guys are the best.
All right. Bye. All right. And that does it for our very, very long San Diego Comic-Con SDConCast special.
Woo!
Woo!
Good job, James and Carrie. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kim, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Really appreciate it.
This was great. You guests were so wonderful today, and I can't believe it. So much fun.
Tons of fun. Is there any news roundups or wrap-ups or anything that we need to go over?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say again real quick. I mean, as pretty much every guest we had come on said, it is so vitally important that we continue to support artists and small vendors. So again, I just want to encourage you. There's so many ways to shop them right now. I mean, literally, like if you just know who you normally go visit their booth at Comic-Con, like go to their web stores. They probably have stuff up. You can go buy it there and have it shipped to your house. If you are after the exclusives, you can head to our website and we have a list of the schedule and all the exclusive. If you prefer to see photos instead of that very long list, click on where it says exclusives in the menu and you can see photos and things like that. You can also go to the event any page and that Comic-Con has and click on Marketplace, and that will take you to more listings. I mean, again, there's so many ways to shop, so please do. If you can't afford it, share their work. But if you can't afford it, like if you want these people back at Comic-Con in the future, it is so important that you toss a couple dollars their way to help ensure that they're there in the future and they exist. So please do.
And of course, we have the commission list for original art if you would like to get something commissioned. That's up on the website, so you can check that out. Again, that's sdccblog.com. And well, I think that wraps it up, right?
I think so. Yeah, let's talk about where we can find each other.
Well, this is the last episode of this season for SDConCast. We'll be back next year with more episodes leading up to WonderCon, and I'm crossing fingers for a full and regular season, weekly season of SDCC 2022 with news, views, special guests. Speaking of special guests, thank you so much to Scott Shaw, Thomas Lennon, Peter Santa Maria, Aisha Tyler, Martin Chu, Darin DePaul, Patrick Ballesteros, Julian Shawna Benson, and Todd Land for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day and spending it with us for 20, 30 minutes, whatever it was. Thank you all so much. So in closing, thank you also for watching and joining us. And Aaron, who helped for the first hour, and Andy for the second hour, and Kim, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
Thank you. I am outside Comic-Con on the social media. And Carrie, where can we find more of you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Carrie Dixon. James, where can we find more of your work?
You can find me everywhere at Dan Regal, and you can check out geekshotphoto.com for all the social media and photography links and such for me and my wife, who Beth is our producer. So thank you to Beth for editing the show, creating the slides that we show, all the other things that help get this podcast done. And I also wanted to make sure that we mentioned Aaron is Bavarian Aaron on the social medias. And Andy is SDCC Wacky Wags on Twitter and Instagram. And yeah, I think that covers everybody, right?
I think so too. We are on iTunes. If you'd like to subscribe, the links are up on the blog, or you can search for SDConCast. If you like what you've heard so far, please review us. We are also on Stitcher Radio, and the link is in the show notes. Also, an extra special thank you to all of our Patreons who help keep the lights on and the hosting bill paid, especially in these weird years.
And if you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at sdcomiccon.blog@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/sdconblog, or you can tweet us at sd_comic_con. Thank you all for watching and listening, and everybody, go
Shawarma!
Woohoo!